Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening. You're listening to Beyond Paranormal Radio, and I'm author Edwin F. Becker. I'm filling in for Brett tonight, and I really don't know where Brett is, but I do know that he's an investigator and a demonologist, and likely he's out there giving aid to someone. So, Brett, if you're out there, stay protected. God bless. I'm very fortunate to fill in. I was honored that he asked me. Tonight's subject is just an incredible subject. It's aliens. And a lot of people don't want to think about aliens, or at least they picture aliens, coming down like on Independence Day and zapping the hell out of us. If you're as old as I am, and I'm near 70, you've been exposed to media. And even if you weren't truly interested in the subject, we've all seen the pyramids, and we've seen the monuments on Easter Island, and we've seen Stonehenge, and we've seen these hieroglyphics that sort of portray flying machines and men in spacesuits, and you have to wonder, because of the sophistication of these ancient technologies, have we been aided by aliens? Well, our two guests tonight, Stephen and Evan Strong, wrote an incredible book. It's called Ancient Aliens in Australia. And I'm going to read this right from the description of the book from Amazon.com, where you can buy the book. For thousands of years, the First People nations of Australia have claimed an ancestral link to a mysterious humanoid race that came from the Pleiades star system to Earth. What was once held to be merely cultural mythology has now been matched to a set of intriguing ancient engravings at a burial site located near the town of Gosford in New South Wales, Australia. These glyphs have been analyzed and interpreted by respected human origins researchers Stephen and Evan Strong, bringing humanity an important revelation. Evidence for a required revision of human history is growing. The material supports a visitation by ancient aliens long before recorded history. The question then arises, is human history not just the history of humans? Was modern man really the result of a genetic engineering program headed up by advanced alien scientists from Pleiades? Now, some of this is going to spin your head around, and mine's already spun around. So I'm going to ask Stephen and Evan Strong to come on and to put my head back in place. Stephen, Evan, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We'll try and put your head back gently, and we won't spin it too quickly at this time. We'll just go down in slow rotations.
Where do we start with this? Because, like I said, I have a topical knowledge. And the question, as an average layman without an academic background on this subject, I have questioned many things that have been done in a sophisticated fashion by ancient people. You're talking about things that were discovered in South Gosford?
Yeah, Gosford, Bambara is one place. There's others too.
Can you tell us about it, and then tell us how it compares to some of the other things? Because generally, I don't care if you're talking about Iraq or India or Egypt or the Mayans or Britain. There's a general facsimile of these things. Does yours fit in?
It does and it doesn't. And that's probably the biggest, most important strength the archaeology in Australia brings to this equation. You see, when you go to South America or you go to the Bosnian pyramids or you go to Sicily, you go to somewhere else, you've got a fusion of different civilizations that are over different times, and you try and work out which one it belongs to, and it makes it difficult because you have that sort of mixture to begin with. In Australia, if you read the books, which are wrong, it says before 1788, when the first British invasion took place, there was nothing. There was nothing here. There was no earlier civilization, and that the people who are here have a stick and stone technology. So what you've got in this country is a completely clean slate. If it's not stick and stone technology and it's over 200 years, we're already into new ground. So where you go past that point is like for us, I think it was a gradual process, wasn't it?
It was. It wasn't all at once. It was very gradual over the years.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you, our first three books, we never used extraterrestrial, UFOs, Pleiades was not mentioned. And we never spoke about it for quite some time. The reason that we're speaking about it now is not through choice. It's because this is what the elders of this country want us to say. I remember at the very beginning when I was given a ceremony by the Ramangeri elders, one of them came up after and said, one day you'll talk about the people who come from Pleiades. And I remember saying to Peter at the time, Peter, you're going to have to give me a spaceship before I'll even start talking about that. We're comfortable with what we've got. So we don't come to this equation as somebody from the start who was crusading the UFOs. We came to this equation as crusading the original story here. It's just as we went down there. And the second part that's very different here is that what we're seeing in this country, the technology we're seeing, and it's not just at the place we're talking about, which is the Bambara glyphs. We're seeing evidence for technology that we don't believe is Egyptian. That's the most important part of this equation. There is a lot of evidence that the Egyptians were here, but not with copper, not with brass. We see things that were cut with hardened metal or laser. So there are a couple of differences in this country that make anything we find here much more astounding, simply because we know if it is not European, then it shouldn't be here, but it is in abundance.
Is your theory that aliens came there independently, or was it a different species of alien?
No, well, actually, if we can just be careful, it's not. We're very careful about this. Not our theory. It's what the elders have forced us to say, and here we are saying it now all the time, because if they tell us, and they've all told us this, we have to talk about it. This is what they tell us. They tell us that way, way, way back, their ancestors come from Pleiades. And if you don't mind, we will often go to quotes from elders when we do this, rather than just say what we say. And I'm going to give you a quote now from Uncle Reuben Kelly. And what he said was, our people came to this country, came to this planet in a spaceship made of energy. And when it came to the atmosphere, it hit the atmosphere and turned to crystal, didn't it? And then we came from there. When I speak to Jerry Bostoff, another elder that introduced us, who was the first elder to introduce any of the white fellas we know of to this particular site, the Bambara one. He also always finishes his phone call with, as on top, so below, and don't forget my ancestors come from Pleiades. There's one dreaming story in Australia that goes through the whole of Australia. Now, there are 500 original nations. Each have their own dreaming stories, their own language, their own mythology. There's no shared dreaming story bar the Seven Sisters. You can find the Seven Sisters story in every tribal group in this country. The Seven Sisters are being chased by Orion. The Seven Sisters are Pleiades, and they're chased by a warrior who is Orion that chases the girls. Now, that is a common story, same players, same names, no matter where you go. So when we talk about the original story and archaeology, because there's a lot of supporting archaeology which we'll talk about, it's not ours, it is theirs telling us. Now, I remember we worked very closely, don't we, with Arnie Bev Spears, the Darkingung elder, and she had said nothing about anything like this. And then one day Ryan ran to us, didn't he? Yeah. She said, Arnie Bev's talking about space people. First time she's mentioned it. Then she starts talking about the carriers from up there and that they crashed in Bambara. He never said it before. So the elders don't give this sort of information up just because you turn up here with a clipboard and you smile at them. You have to earn it. And if you ask them, you won't get it. But when they think the timing's right, they give up a little bit more each time. So what we're doing, as we've been with these elders, all of them, it doesn't matter which one we go to, are pushed us into the star beings. Yeah. We're going down in a month and a half to our elders, the one that gave his ceremony first up, and he's going to give us the sacred story of the star beings. We didn't ask for it, it's just where they pushed us. So yes, it is a story that runs through the whole of this country. There is no original group that doesn't look to the Pleiades as their ancestry. Now, I'm not saying, and we do believe, other beings, star beings from other constellations landed elsewhere. And I think they landed there with different intentions. But our understanding is in this country, in Australia, when the Pleiadians landed here, they landed here, and yes, we have absolute proof about 4 or 5 times over that they created what we are today. But the beings that were created here was something that they could incarnate into. They weren't meant to be compliant vassals, slaves, as may be the case elsewhere. They were meant to be enlightened beings. So we believe the Pleiadians came to Australia with the intention of creating something to incarnate in. So I think in different places, different ideas took place and different players were involved. But in ours, our beings, our sky heroes, and by the way, the original people don't have gods. They are called sky heroes. The sky heroes came from the sky. Byami went back, didn't he?
Yep, they returned.
He returned to the sky. So did his wife. In fact, we read a dreaming story 2 days ago that tells us his wife was not made from this earth and went back again. So all that is part of their mythology. What we've now been lucky to do is the original people have not only told us the stories, they've been kind enough to give us the archaeological proof. And gee, that makes it easier.
It does, it really does. But there's a heaps and heaps of different examples of outside, whether you call it alien or sky hero or contact.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So that's the part we're on to now. We're looking now at the archaeology that proves their story.
When you speak of the elders, can you define who those elders are? Who is that?
Yeah. Look, you're probably going to find wherever you go in this country and the world, you're going to find there are indigenous people, and some are called elders, and some are elders. They're not the same thing. There's a difference. There are people who are involved in political and monetary parts of this. The elders we speak about are the ones who are from the old ways, the old traditional ways of this country, the ones who've been given proper ceremony. Arnie Bev danced for 3 days and 3 nights continually to get her ceremony in front of 3 initiated women. Chano, right, he's just one of the most important people in this country when it comes to old ways. He's one of the custodians of the very first language ever spoken. He's teaching us parts of it now. These are people that are versed in their culture. And yes, we've been here for 220 years, but these ones never let go. And we work with those people. And what we've done over a period of about 30-odd years is won their trust. And now what they're doing with us is they're giving us ceremonies, they're giving us songs, and they're showing us places, and they're showing us proof. So that when they tell us a story, I say, okay, there's the story. Now we need some white fella proof so the white fella can get this story. And you see, when we were given, when I was given my very first ceremony, it was given under the banner of what's called Wirichin. It's a Ramangeri word that means black fella, white fella, dreaming together. So what we're doing, our role is to give up that information to mainstream. And that's basically what we've been doing for the last 3 years since the ceremony, haven't we?
Yeah.
Let me ask, what do you believe is their end game? What is their eventual plan?
That's a fine question. Well done. Yes, that's a very good pickup. I must make the point. Time after time we've been given this information with a rule and guidance. Get it out to them as quickly as possible. They see there is an end point in this. I've got to be careful what I can say. I can say, talk in general terms. The general feeling is that this is the last year for them to put out all the information, all the stuff they've hidden, all the stuff that they've kept, their real history, and the real history of this planet, because their history is everyone's history. They want it out this year so people can look, understand, have assessed what they're talking about, saying, does it make sense? Because they believe, I'm not saying me, I'm saying they believe, there is a line in the sand. When past that point, you have to have made your decision before that. Then they believe there'll be a change in, I've got to be careful how we put this, haven't we? No, I suppose the best way to put this, because I know where this is going to, is a change in vibration. They believe there's a point when something takes place where everyone becomes accountable. And they see that as written in not in the stars, but in the earth. So, yeah, this is part of that Wirichin thing where everyone gets to hear about the real story of the original people. And our problem, of course, is within our own country. We are fighting the Australian government, who are basically trying their very hardest to keep us quiet every way possible. But luckily, overseas, things aren't that hard, are they? Much easier outside our own country.
Isn't that the case in almost all countries, though? I mean, no one seems to really, even though you have all this various evidence, no one seems to really want to talk publicly.
No, but it's really sad, mate, because the last time we went out on site, how many times did the helicopter go over us, Evan?
Oh, about 12 times.
It just kept circling around.
Up like
and it's in the middle of the bush, 5-6 k's from any sign of civilization. Another time we had a news item that went out in the national news. It was taken off in 2 hours all over the country. We've done this. I've had letters. I've had phone calls from government agents threatening me. They're not even subtle about it, but it's quite stupid because every time they do that, we keep thinking, well, gee, why would they go to the trouble unless we're right? So it actually is like it works in reverse. It makes us more determined. And because it's the government and those people, then we just think, bugger them anyway. But I do feel that there is something really quite stunning that's going to take place. I've only got clues and bits of ideas because I've been given some ceremonies, but to know exactly what's going on, I probably need 4 lifetimes of ceremonies to get where some of these people are. But, yes, there is an agenda. There is a reason this is coming out, and it's not just for history's sake and check us out and put us in the history books. They believe that what they have has a purpose
and usefulness
in the future, not just the past. So that's what this is about also.
So you're saying that, let's say in the case of Egypt, where they attribute their origin, alien origin to Anunnaki, you're saying that yours is different, that theirs was a different alien.
Absolutely. We believe, and you'll find the stories are different, and it's worth bearing in mind why were the Egyptians obsessed with Australia? Honestly, there's so much evidence there of them being there that it's, in fact, what we've only just found out. In the 1930s in Australia, the archaeology talking about Australia and Egypt was in the front papers all over the country. It was received in science conferences favourably. The top academics in this country, Dr. Sir Elliot Grafton Smith, who was Knight of Free Services to Academia, the president of the Australian Archaeological Society, had absolute proof, and by the way, it's a site we're going to next week, that the Egyptians were in Australia, and we've seen it too. It was given as really an obvious one. In fact, it had been tolerated for 25 years in that country at every level of academia. But what happened in 1938 is one of these professors overstepped the boundaries and wrote a paper talking about the fact that there were other civilizations here, and one of these civilizations came from the stars. That paper has got the word annulled stamped on top of it. The conference he was going to speak at was called off, and there is no more record of that guy in any academic press, in any academic record. There's not a photo to be found of him from that point on. His record was taken out of this whole.
With his funds, we've been able to find the newspaper articles that have been left behind, that haven't been able to get their hands on.
He came on to two sites. One at the place we're going to now. He hadn't come on to the the Bambara site, and another site we're working on where the most used phrase was, and we know it back to front, came to earth, isn't it, Edwin?
Yeah.
It's just reeks of came to earth. And that started to worry them, and that's why this guy was wiped out for that reason. So when I say there's archaeology of an extraterrestrial nature, there is so much of it. There's as much of that as there is Egyptian stuff. And if I can give you a practical example, there's an engraving there. Klaus Duna claims it's the largest engraving of a UFO in the world. And it is, but that's not what's interesting about it. It's the mathematics, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, the mathematics is astounding.
They're astounding. Now, let me explain. This engraving is overlooking the waters of Bambara. And Arnie Bev told us that the carriers from up there, the major ship, crashed in the waters of Bambara. And it overlooks those waters. It's a massive spaceship. It is 4 metres in length and 2 metres across, and it's been pecked. It's got a capsule at the top like a semicircle. It's got 5 legs coming down, and each of them have dots. Each of them have round dots at the bottom. It's 4 metres high, 2 metres across. And it overlooks where the crash site could be. Yeah, that's nice circumstantial evidence, isn't it?
It is.
Now, we're saying it's a UFO, and we do know that the first elder ever wrote about that region, and he's on the $50 note in Australia, an original man, called all of those things starfish. So, yes, we know it's probably that. But what's fascinating is this.
Do you think...
Sorry, yeah?
Do you think they're going to come back? They're going to visit us again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because there's a 1999 part of the story to this story, and I'll bring it back to now. Because what happens is, when we looked at that, now this particular UFO has got a line through the middle of the capsule at the top, so it's a 2-story thing, because there's a line right through the center to make it 2 stories. What we noticed was that when you go to the Bambara glyphs, there are 8 UFOs there. And it's the same design. And the biggest UFO there, between the 2 walls, was identical. So what we did was this. We measured them. And this is where the story gets interesting. Now remember, we're supposed to be dealing with original people who don't have a ruler, just have stick and stone technology, and this is what we found. We found, if you measure across the UFO that overlooks the crash site, it's 190 centimetres across. We found if you go between the 2 walls, the biggest one we got there, the one we're looking at, is 19 centimetres across. And we noticed that going across, everything is exactly proportional by a factor of 10. We thought, wow, that's interesting. But that could be a coincidence, because we've got to be sceptical about this, because there's plenty out there like that. But don't worry, there's more to it. We then measured down, vertical. Now, we've got one problem. All of the 8 UFOs we have between the walls are 1 story, aren't they?
They are.
This one has definitely got 2 stories because the jellyfish top bit has got a line through the middle. And we said, well, okay, this is double. It's a two-story one, so let's multiply by 20. It's a rational thing to do because we're trying to get proportion here.
Right.
And this is what happened. We found that the top cap is 150 centimetres when it overlooks the waters of Bambara. The one between the walls is 7.5. If you double 7.5, you get 15, and multiply by 20, by 10, you get 150. Exactly the same. Then I went further. We measured the longest leg overlooking where the crash site was, and it's 168 centimetres. Bear with me because I think you guys are American. You probably do inches again, so bear with me on that. Sorry about that. It won't work the other way. Anyway, this is what happened. We measured the one between the walls, it's 8.4. You double 8.4 and you get 16.8. You multiply it by 10, you get 168. So our measurements going down are exactly, two of them, 20 to the centimetre exact. Going across, 10 to the centimetre exact. Each of the 5 legs down the bottom have 5 holes underneath. They are the same spaceship, and they were done exactly the same way to show us that that was not a coincidence. And the pecking, remember this, pecking is a very ancient way of rock work in this country, isn't it, Edwin? It predates the engraving. So we're looking at this pecking be at least 6,000, 7,000 years old and probably much older. So how did they know? How can you transcribe that mathematics, measure it, and get it like that down to the centimetre 3 ways? Wasn't an accident. It was by design.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. For everybody listening, okay, you're listening to Stephen and Evan Strong, who wrote the book Ancient Aliens in Australia. And I'm author Edwin F. Becker, and we're on the Beyond Paranormal Radio Network. And I'm filling in for Brett Watson, who's away this evening. And this subject is just mesmerizing. So, fellas, if you want to continue. I've got a big question, but it takes you a little bit away from Australia.
Yeah, we're happy to go away from Australia.
just you know, as someone who's not as knowledgeable, there were some things that I've noticed in my lifetime, and most of the technologies that are ancient alien, whether it's in Peru or whether it's in Egypt, they go way, way back. But there are a number of items that showed up in medieval times. And one of them is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the picture of the Madonna with St. Giovannino, where it's a picture of the Madonna, and clearly behind her, this was done in 1458, is a man and his dog looking at a spaceship.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's as clear as day, and it's like, okay, now we're in 1458. Also, about the same time, this map was discovered, the Pyra map, I believe it's called. It's an aerial view. It's an aerial view of the civilized world at that time. You know, so again, we're in medieval times with something that they couldn't possibly have done. And then you get Easter Island and those stones that are tons, 13 tons, some of them are twice that size. They're dating them 500 years old, which again drops them into medieval times. Was there like a visitation during medieval times that was massive?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I see what you're getting at. We got it here. It's going to be hard for us to give you a definite answer on that because in other countries, in fact, every other country, your timeline is done in a straight line, and original timelines are done circular, so they don't give time, do they?
No, not really.
It's very hard to say, but I would say the answer is probably yes. There is an indication here of something major that took place about 400 to 500 years ago, and we're still working on that. But it's going to be hard for us to be more specific other than to say that there's been a constant flow of different civilizations in this country. The Egyptians, the Spanish, we know the Spanish had set up civilizations here. The Phoenicians were here, the Celts, the Vikings, It's been constant. And yeah, look, there are remains of technology. We've actually got one ourselves, haven't we?
We do.
That we found here that doesn't belong. We found within about 50 metres of the Bambara glyphs the remains of an object, something that was much bigger, and it's some sort of machinery, and what we've got is both metal and crystal fused together and made into one thing. Now, I'll let you in a secret. In the Australian bush, we didn't have factories out there making objects that used metal and crystal unless it was lasers until quite recently, and this is ancient.
Right.
So my question is, what is that doing there? And the answer is it shouldn't be, but we actually have it with us, so we know where it is, and it's still with us. So, yeah, look, we can't quantify when, but we certainly can. I mean, we can give you a date of one involvement there, but we certainly can't say in medieval times there were people here. But I would suggest to you, we know for a fact the Egyptians were thrown out of this country in the 1500s. That was the last time they were allowed to be here, and they'd been here for 4,700 till about 400 years ago. So they've been comings and goings here. I get very confused now, because our biggest problem now is, do we go for Egyptian civilization or do we go further back? Or the beauty of it is, do we look at the alien, sort of Pleiadian involvement? We've got three areas we now look at.
Yeah, do you have any of, in certain parts of the world, they found, Egypt and South America, they found these huge skulls, skeleton skulls. Yeah. And debunkers have tried to say that, when there was a child, they would misshape their head, which, is a bunch of BS, because your skull ain't going to grow twice its size. If that were the case, you could put rings around your arm and have arms down to your feet and sink. We could all be dunking basketballs. But they have these huge skulls that are twice the size of ours that have been found in various places around the Earth that appear to be alien. They're certainly not human.
Yeah.
Any feeling on that?
Yeah, there's two answers to that. There's two ways of answering that. Firstly, you may not be aware of the fact that in Australia, before the white fellas turned up here, there wasn't what you would call one distinct original race of people. There were three different groups. All right?
Okay.
They're the Grassol groups that are what you know of today as the original people. There was the robust, completely different race, and I can tell you now, if that gentleman was walking down the street, you'd get on the other side of the street. And then there are the little ones. And we've got pictures of the little ones that were taken in 1938, whole tribes of little people that were 3.5 foot. And most people in the world, not even Australia, know about them. But what I'm getting back to is to the robust group. Let me share a couple of pieces of information. I think you'll find where this comes from, because I think this is part of this country's legacy also. This race was so distinct. There's one there called WLH50. Now, our skull is around about 3 mils. WLH50 was around about 18 to 20 mils thick. It's got a massive skull that points up really solidly, runs back at about 45 degrees, doesn't it? And the skull is so thick, and also the cranium capacity is 1,540 cc. Today, ours is 1,300. Now, this particular being was one of a whole race, and they were distinct from the Grassol. And there's one burial place at Tower Swamp where they found about 85 of these robust people and not one Grassol. So we feel that they lived separately from one another. Now, these people were still part of Australia 6,000 years ago, and we are told that they were extinct, but I know of one tribe that says this was a woman that had children, so they're still around, but not many of them. We believe you're going to find, when we talk about different races and the people with the big heads, yes, and I think you'll find, if you want to find the base place, I think it's going to be here, because they're bigger. Their skull, their bone, the bone of people, like the elbow bone was 1.5 times thicker. Its jawbone was twice as strong as ours, and it had more brains than us. My question has always been, how come the thinner, smaller boned, dumber race won when you've got this bigger, smarter group that's much stronger? What are these people? And it's worth bearing in mind. There's a mitochondrial study done of original people who said they're the oldest. Homo sapiens started there 400,000 years ago, and said that they came from two lineages. One is Homo erectus, and the scientists didn't give another one. There were studies done with Y chromosomes of the original people of Australia, and they said they're an ancient civilization that doesn't belong to anyone else, and they come from two lineages. And they say one is Homo erectus. But you know, both of them don't say what the other lineage is. And I think that's where you're going to find that story starts here. So I think the long-headed people, yes, I've heard a lot about them, and I know they're all over the place, and yes, there are skulls like that here too. But these guys, have a look at the thickness of their skull, then start to get your head around that, and then try and convince yourself they're just exactly the same as us, and I don't believe that. I don't believe they are. I remember Josephine Flood, when she was describing, she said it was describing the skull of this robust person is like comparing an orange peel to an eggshell, the difference in the skull there. Now, if it's smarter, if it's stronger, if it's more powerful, and it's not us, but it is us, they say it's got the same genes, I don't know what it is.
The one thing we kind of do know, is they make these movies where aliens are always hostile. It seems that, from at least this is my perspective, that they've been generous, actually, in sharing their technology and sort of watching over us. Am I correct or not?
You are so correct. And when you said that, I went and grabbed a piece of paper straight away. I never knows which one I'm going to grab.
I certainly do.
There's a site we're working on called the Site of the 185 Standing Stones. Now, there was a professor, Frederick Slater, the president of the Australian Archaeological Society, we mentioned before. This is the site that got him smashed. And the reason he got smashed is because not only did he claim that there, and according to him, on these stones, and what was marked there, was all knowledge that was, is, and will ever be on this particular mountain. He believed this is the first language on this planet. He had so far counted 28,000 different words. It's made up of 196 different combinations of hand signs, rock markers, rock alignments, animal gestures, all sorts of things go together to make this really complex language. Now, Slater said these people brought this to us and put it on this mound for humanity to look at and memorize. It was a gift from the gods. Now, what's really interesting is that Slater managed to get somebody, an original person, who was able to read the actual transcriptions. Now, this mound was destroyed, by the way, in 1940 because of government intervention, because they wanted it destroyed because of what was there. Slater said this was greater than Stonehenge, and I think he underestimates it. We think it's the most important site in the world. What's interesting is what was written there. Now, you talk about the technology they left us, which is true. You talk about the genetics they left us, which was true. They also left us a guide mark, a tabernacle on how we should live. And what I think is really important, is why a lot of people from overseas are interested, aren't they, Edwin?
Yep.
It's the translation. And could I share a couple of lines that were taken directly from this guy's? We've got his notes.
Sure.
We've got Slater's notes, handwritten notes, where he's actually got the translation, and we've got the only copy of that translation. Now, I've got the actual sacred words above, so I never call them out because they're too sacred. But I want to read to you what these people, the star beings from above, and I'll actually start by reading one of them that introduces you to them. This is what they came for. It reads like this: guided by truth, man came to earth through darkness from the light of life that shines far off. And then it says, enter and learn the truth of the divine light. The breath of God is the divine light of the soul. Then it starts to talk about what we're supposed to learn about. talks about the light of truth flows like a river of fire from God to the soul of man and woman united. Some religions still haven't got that one, of course. Okay? It goes on all the way through there. Truth is brought out and wings to earth from God to man. Life comes in, life goes out in darkness to the light that holds it forever. There is just passage after passage of statements. But I was told the first language ever written would be about caves, animals, food, weapons, and basic emotions.
Sure.
This is about the divine purpose of life and how the soul was made. They said that God came to earth and gave man a soul. It keeps talking about this story about someone coming from somewhere, from a light that shines far off. And of course, in the middle of this sacred mound, there are 7 rocks, all sandstone, which we know according to the map represents water. Water up there is feminine. And next to it is the only igneous rock on the whole mound. That's Orion. So right in the centre, there we have the marker again of Pleiades and Orion. So when they talk about, and we've actually been on site for an elder, Kano, didn't you? Yeah. He placed one of the sacred rocks in the middle and then gave us the stories. And the last story he gave us is that 1 month of the year, that rock points directly from the place that all original people came from. My question straight away was, Kano, which month would that be? And he said, that's for you to find out. So that means we've got to go up that mound for the elf every month to try and work out when it's pointing to the right place. But that was the subtlety of the language these guys did. Now, this language was made from rock arrangements and markings on rocks. That is an important part of the legacy of our ancestors from afar, from a light that shines far off. That's where these gods come from. It says that time after time, the light that holds it forever, and the light that shines far off. He talks about in a dreaming story, when Byami came here, he landed at Mount Yengo, waited for a while. Then his sons came and they joined him. One of his sons, who was called the Nameless One, went back to a tree which mingled with the clouds, got inside it, and it took off, and it was a cloud of smoke, and it went up and marked the Southern Cross. Then Byami goes back in his spaceship and then goes back up. Look, the reason we're talking about this stuff is because that's all they actually talk about. When you go to their creation myths, they keep talking about coming down here and going back up.
Gotcha. I'm going to take 1 second. For those out there sitting here mesmerized, I'm author Edwin F. Becker, and I'm interviewing Stephen and Evan Strong, who wrote Ancient Aliens in Australia. I mean, this book will spin your head around. And I'm sitting in for Brett Watson, who generously allowed me to be on the program tonight, and I'm so glad I did, because these guys are just amazing. With that, I got a question for Stephen and Evan. What does this do to the average person's belief in religion, the religious belief?
See, I actually always hope that someone asks a question like this when we're doing this, because we could sit here for the next 5 hours and give you archaeology after archaeology, but that's not the important part of the story. The important part of this story for me is exactly what you just said. All right? It's really important that we understand what this meant, why this happened, why were the gods involved here, why did they come to this place, why did they bother? And as Doctor Who once said when he was looking at the Neanderthals and us, the Homo sapiens, he said, I always thought the Neanderthals, the poets would have got through, but the cranky monkeys did instead. Well, now the cranky monkeys are in control. This is what they need to understand. And this, I think, is really important. For the last 5,000 to 6,000 years, we've been lied to. We've been given this myth that humans are basically, we've come out of the jungle, we're a bit shittier, a bit more conniving. We hunted down the big woolly mammoth with a stick with a point and killed them all. Of course we did, yeah, that had really hurt them a lot. We did all these things and overcome everyone else, and it's in our natural nature to be like that. So why is it today the world spends 50 cents in every dollar on either killing people, watching people, surveying people, or plotting against people? Because that's the way we are. We're taught to believe it, and while we believe that, we'll fulfill that prophecy, won't we? We will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. What we're saying is this. That scripture I started to read from, I could read line after line. It's a stunning piece of work. That's where we're supposed to be. This is where they placed us. They placed us as being cooperative, spiritual human beings. Now, look, I'm not going to deny, no matter what we get, we're a flawed copy. Humans will fight. Men will fight. But let me share something with you, and I'll digress and then come back to why that's important. I hope I can remember because I'm old.
Okay.
For original men in a tribe, they could never fight each other unless a woman was agreed to act as referee. And if they started a fight and she said stop, they had to stop immediately. And if one of the men didn't, the rest of the tribe would beat that man into a pulp. So even at our worst, there are ways to control the way we behave. We don't have those controls anymore because, and I'll go back to what we're talking about here, in the first guidelines that were given here, what I'm reading out to is exactly how the original people lived their lives until we came in. They maintained what the Pleiadians left as the guidelines on how to behave. They turned into their philosophy, which they call the dreaming. But this is the dreaming. This is the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. Right? So it says here, the soul of man came from the immortal light to drink the water of life from the gods. Well, that's the dreaming. That's a quote that the Pleiadians gave us.
Right.
And the dreaming is about that. So what I'm saying is that this, what I'm reading out, is our true heritage. And I also believe, and we believe this, Evan, don't we? Up until 6,000 years ago, when the plough and the money and the division of labour and forts and all those things came about, when we're all living hunter-gatherer societies, we believe the original people had set the precepts and principles that the whole world was living. Whether you went to America, to the American Indians, South America, or you went and saw the Celts, you will find there's a real strong commonality with the way the original people were living. We believe the whole world was living as spiritual, cooperative beings. And yes, they still fought. But here's the rule, and this is a rule that we lost. When original men did have to fight, they found an agreed place off country, because you could never fight on another person's country. That would be wrong, wouldn't it? Nor could you take anything from that country, nor could you go on to that country. You went somewhere else. And when the fight was finished, and it was agreed, everyone went away, it was done. And it was finished. Now, that's not how we do it now. You see, if we had those rules where you could never walk on another person's country because you weren't made there. The spirits that made those people didn't make you. And if you walked onto that country, those spirits would make you sick, make you ill. Now, if everyone in the world believes that, look at the difference you have in the world. We don't have that thought anymore now. When someone takes another country, what's the first thing they steal? Their history. Forget it. They take their history first, and they sanitize their sins to become something different. What we're saying was, for hundreds of thousands of years, we lived, the whole world lived under the precepts of the dreaming, under the precepts of the writings from the standing stones that the top academic in Australia said was the most important site in Australia, if not the world, the first religious mound in the world. That should be the place we should be looking at. Because forget about Moses and Sinai and the tabernacle like that. We've got the rocks here. Now here's the beauty of it. 4 months before the rocks were destroyed and ploughed, because the Australian government were going to take the farm unless the farmer got rid of them, they went on and marked where every rock stands. Secondly, the language is not gone. The songs of the rock and the songs of the mound are still known. So unlike Stonehenge, which they put back together, they didn't have the songs anymore. We still have them. So it's a powerful place. And if I can just bring this back to the future, quite recently, and I'm writing this article right now. It's actually, I was writing it today. It's called The Drums of Heaven. You know what this one's about, don't you?
Yeah.
About a week and a half ago, one of the people who went onto that site sent us a picture. And I had a phone call from my elder. He wanted to talk to me urgently. Something really important had happened. Now, my elder lives 3,000 k's away. And Edwin said, but look at this picture. I said, no, I've got to talk to my elder. He said, no, look at the picture. I said, no, I've got to talk to my elder. Then I realised I can't work the mobile. I can't ring out. So I had to look at the picture first.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice. I'll make it back also.
Because I don't know how to work those machines. So I looked at this picture, and there's the mound we're talking about. And there's rainbow coming out of one side of the mound, going in the other. And it's a massive rainbow, the most vibrant one we've ever seen. And this lady was on that site before and stood on that mound. She's driving past the day before and takes a picture. I look at that and think, isn't that amazing one? We knew it was a sacred site. I then go to my elder. He said, we've got an important message. The message was given to you by the spirits. He said, yesterday, at the sacred mound we're at, he said there was a huge surge of most important energy that came out of that mound. I said, I know. We just got a picture of it. Now, that's the same mound. Because what I want to say to everyone is that if you think it's an historical oddity of the past, when we were there, the elders all announced that a massive portal had been opened, didn't they, Edwin? And that there were black fellas, white fellas, people that were blue with long arms and legs, and we know they're Pleiadians again. Of course they were there. Everyone was at that portal. And there we get a message from two people 3,000 kilometres away from each other, one through a camera, one through a telephone. They didn't know each other was doing this, and they both passed on the same information. So that site was chosen by a lot of people for a lot of different reasons because it's not dead. It's not finished. All we've done is when we went back to that site, and remember when we went there the first day, Evan, we took the 6 elders to the site before we had all the archaeologists on. And our elder, Kano, stood on the top of the mound, and I swear this is true, and I've written about it too, and he called for the spirits to give a sign. And 4 hawks came above him and signed and circled him. And he called for more. He got 5, 6, 7, and finally 8. Now 8, and they circled in a figure 8, which is the mound that's on, the shape that's on the mound and the sign of infinity. They circled above for about 2 minutes, then left. So they're the sort of people we're dealing with, and that's the place that's been brought back to life. So this history we talk about, the history starts at the very beginning, the Pleiades. They left something there, but, ladies and gentlemen, they didn't turn it off. They just left the switch on hold. And we've got a picture of the switch off hold, and we've got a phone call telling us the switch went off at the same time. So it's a story that starts with the stars, and we'll probably end up going back there again.
Amazing. Just amazing. For our audience, okay, you're listening to Stephen and Evan Strong, who wrote Ancient Aliens in Australia. Just an amazing book. Stephen, Evan, where is this book available aside from Amazon?
Well, can I just be crassly commercial for 1 second? Because that one is through Amazon, and it's a co-production with Daniela and Bruce.
Daniela Carbonite.
Yeah.
Bruce Center.
Yeah, and we did that together, and it's us talking about, and I'd like to talk about one part of that now. It's about the markings between the 2 walls. We've now got a book out which is actually in publication in hard copy, which is called Shunned. And that one you can get both ways, and it's going to be out. In fact, it was published through the printer yesterday, and it's coming up through the post. So one you can get through Amazon, the other one you can actually buy. So they're both around. So enough of us being crass and commercial. We do apologise for that.
That's all right.
Could we talk about the Bambara glyphs?
The what?
The Bambara glyphs, and I'll explain why they're so important. Because you know how we just spoke about the standing stones and the beautiful esoteric story? The actual thing is called the mystery track of life and death. It's basically how we're supposed to live our life and death. So I know it's quite sublime. And when you go on the site, it is a really moving experience, okay? It's a very powerful site.
Can you hold on 1 second? Can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah.
Jill? Are you there?
Hey, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
I want to introduce the host for the next hour, which is Jill Borel Wilder. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
And Stephen and Evan, unfortunately, I have to go at the top of the hour, but my head's still turned around. All right.
So
you guys
I
are
can do
amazing. Jill, can you take over?
Absolutely, I can. Yes, I can take over from here. So anyway, yes, this has been an amazing show to listen to.
I got one last question.
No, Ed.
Yes.
I'm joking.
You know, what happens? I mean, you know, in America, we're declaring war on everybody. All right. If we don't like your looks, we're invading your country now. It's a whole new policy here. Well, do you think before we step in, before we destroy ourselves, 'cause I mean, all it's going to take is one country to push a button, and they're all going to start pushing buttons. Do you think that someone's going to step in and stop us from destroying ourselves?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I even have a fairly good idea how it's going to happen, but I can't say it. I do know that, can we be subtle, Edwin, in a very subtle way to give people a bit of hope?
Yeah.
I think we can. But let me close with this, because as I'm saying this, we'll probably pass the baton on anyway. I'll tell you part of a story which I know is true, and it took place. I'm not even going to nominate the city anymore now. I'm going to have to be very cryptic about it. Caused a lot of fuss when we mentioned it vaguely once. But it is a true story. In answer to your question, it's probably about a year ago, maybe a bit longer than that, in some part of Australia, there's an elder whose name, this is going to be so cryptic because I'm going to leave so much out of this. His name I'm not going to mention, except I know it's true. Apart from that, I won't say the rest of it. Who was with another person who we work with very, very closely that would not lie. He'd rather cut his tongue out than ever lie, and he told me this story, and he's one of our close friends. He works with us very closely for a long, long period of time. What happened was he said, I'm going to show you people. There were some original people with us. Time to get these people ready. And they said, who? He said, everyone. And then what he did was, and I've held one of these things. I know where there's another one. I've had it in my hand for an hour. He took an object, it's made of wood, and he placed it in the air, then it rammed it in the ground. What then happened was there were many, many people in that particular place that fell asleep for the next 5 hours. Some stayed upright. Some were felt unwell, but they didn't actually... All right.
We're picking up something here.
This happens to us all the time, yeah. So what then happened was, and we spoke to a guy that was with this man and fell asleep for 5 hours and told me what it was like. And then after 5 hours, the hospitals were full of people. They couldn't work it out. After 5 hours, everyone just woke up again. End of story. Now, my take was, from what I was told, that was to move the vibration up in that part of Australia, just one small piece. Somewhere further down the line, there'll be a lot of sticks that might go in the ground, not just in our country, and there may be some rocks that have keys that we turned at a certain date that we know about too. And I think you're going to find there are shamans and indigenous people of the old way that have things that are far stronger than their buttons. Yeah, I'm not just saying that guess what, it's just the mob up here that have got the stuff. We know something's happening in another part in Japan. I know the date. I know exactly what's happened. I know who's involved. These things are all happening around the same time all over the world. And what I would say is, yes, those people that are not conspiring, that don't want this to happen, are powerful, but you cannot beat nature, and you cannot beat what was already here to begin with. And those things are being called together. This is the reason why we're giving this information out. We're allowed to talk about this in general terms. I can't be more specific than saying that did happen. I spoke to a person that fell asleep, and I spoke to the person who watched it happen. And they just dropped. People just dropped all over the place. So
well,
they've got that power.
It does give me some faith, I'll tell you that. Because from our perspective up here, it almost looks like there's going to be Armageddon soon. Yeah. And, you know...
Well, that's why I think we're doing this, mate. I think one of the reasons we're trying to get across here, I'm working with people. I've seen We've seen these old people, well, no one in particular now, do what you would say so far. How many miracles is there? 5, 6? 5 or 6 things that you can't do. You cannot do. And if I told you what they were, science would say you're lying. It's not true. But, you know, when you keep seeing that, you wonder who's running the show. Okay? You really wonder who's running the show. Who's actually really doing this? Yes, the children are playing in the sandpit and they're doing a bloody awful job. But there's some old ones, old men and women all around the world that are waiting for the timing. And the timing is now, and they're just watching what we do and saying, come on, hurry up, take your mind up.
Well, unfortunately, I have to say goodnight and turn you over to Jill.
Yeah,
And,
they're not
Jill Borel Wilder is a host of her own show, Paranormal Realm, and she's really got some nice legs, guys.
Oh, you stop it.
She's Miss Louisiana,
Thanks for
and I love her to death. So you're in good hands, and I thank both of you. I bow to both of you. The subject matter is deep. It's excellent. I'm going to get the book. It really spins your head around, and I thank you for allowing me to host this show, and I thank Brett Watson. So blessings to all of you.
Well, thank you for filling in, Ed. I really appreciate it.
I want to tell you, Ed, Brett's on. I turned him on. That was all the commotion y'all were hearing.
So Brett's on?
Yeah, Brett's on.
She hung up on me, too. She hung up on me, too.
Oh, Brett.
Well, thank you, Brett.
Still hangs up on me.
Thank you, Brett. And before I go, I want to say goodbye to my friend Trevor Bogue, who's in Perth, a good friend of mine. And Brett, thank you. Jill, thank you. Stephen and Evan, amazing. All I can say is amazing. Everybody should buy the damn book and go out and buy it right now.
Golly,
good night, fellas.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Brett, I'm sorry I hung up on you.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I'm on
Well,
Skype,
no, we
so
heard
I don't know how good my signal is. What's that?
It was like we heard a bunch of kid noise, and I was like, who is that? So I was like, ooh, I thought I messed up something, so I hung it up.
That's why I've had to get people filling in, because I'm actually at a dancer's Stedford for my daughter.
Ah, I was thinking you were at a strip club or something.
Now, Jill.
I'm just picking. I'm just messing around. Well, do you have the...
And it's only the middle of the day here. We don't go to strip clubs at midday.
Oh, I see. So no strip clubs during the day.
Sorry, what was that? You cut in and out.
I was going to say if you had any questions for your guests that are on right now.
Well, you see, unfortunately, I've been out of the loop for most of the time, so I don't even know what's been asked.
Oh.
Oh, a lot.
So that's where.
Gonna make it hard.
So that's where you come in. That's where you come in, Jill.
They've covered so much. Are you kidding me? And Ed's asked probably every question that I've had, so I did not chime in not once. And very interesting things to hear from their perspective and different things from all over the world. Because I never really got into studying anything of the UFO or of that nature. I'm just kind of starting to break that ice now. And so actually, you guys, one of the questions that a guest that's going to be on our show, I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name was Bob White. So he actually found something, like an artifact.
Yeah.
He's had it tested. Y'all heard of him?
No, I haven't, but I'll certainly listen, yeah.
Oh, wow, yes. Well, his story is amazing. Unfortunately, he passed away. But his best friend that now has the artifact is coming. They're actually going to be on our show. His name's Larry. And they've had it tested by scientists all over. No one can identify what this exactly is.
Okay.
And, you know, he happened to see something fall from the sky. He went over to analyze it. It's not anything of, you know, like meteor or anything of that nature. I'm seriously, I just started touching base with this. I was like, wow, this is weird. I mean, it's really, really weird. And so, you know, what would be your, just hearing that little tidbit of information, what would be your opinion of that? In other words, like, what could that be?
Well, yeah, I'd have to know a little bit more about what the artifact is. I mean, obviously, we've got artifacts here that don't fit either. But you try and get someone to give you a definitive answer, and we're finding that really difficult. So, yeah, like, is it metal? That's one of the things you can look at, but I don't know. I'd have to know what the artifact is. We'd have to have a bit more detail on it, to be honest.
It, you know, look him up. It's metal looking, and you know, I kind of wing my conversations with people, so it's like I try not to get all the information ahead of time, and so, you know, I want him to be able to come on and talk a little more about that. And so, from what I read, it's very interesting. I mean, it's been from scientist to scientist to scientist to museums to, it's all over. It's been all over. No one. And guess what it is? It's just something of not of this world.
Well, we've got one of those, maybe, haven't we, Evan?
Yeah, definitely not.
We've had one person who've actually, a lot of people have said, we think this was made from a spaceship. We don't know. When we first when we first knew about the Bambara glyphs and the 300 glyphs that were there, we got in contact with all the elders, and one of the very first original elders that went to that site picked up 2 artifacts, was drawn towards them. And the one I'm thinking of in particular, it took a half an hour to clean it up. It was between the 2 walls where all these inscriptions were made. And when she cleaned it up, it actually was a clasp, and it had a perfect circle on the top that you could run a chain through. And the children wore it as jewelry for a while, but the top of the clasp broke one day, which is a bit of a shame, because if it's jewelry that's tens of thousands of years old, it's a bit of a shame they actually wore it, but they did. The interesting part is that I've shown this particular metal to quite a few people. And the problem is, and I've shown it to metallurgists, and I've shown it to all sorts of people, and they've all said they don't recognise it, and the only thing they've ever given us as a possibility is aluminium. And the problem is that aluminium made in Australia, where this was found, there is a bauxite site. It's about 2,000 k's away. You need 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit to cook aluminium, and you've got to extract it from other minerals to begin with. It's a very difficult process that Egyptians didn't do, and theoretically no group did. Now, we've got that actually sitting. That was found between the 2 walls, and to this day, no one's been able to identify that metal. And for those who say it's Egyptian, I say to them, well, it's certainly not copper, it's not brass, it's not magnetic, it hasn't got iron ore in it. So we've been very careful with that. The problem is we can't let that go out of our sight, can we, Evan?
Yeah, unfortunately, things like that when you disappear.
The elders made it clear we were never to let go of it, but we've shown quite a few people, so it may be the same stuff. I can tell you now that it's certainly, no one's been able to identify it yet.
Right, and from what I understand, y'all are more involved in the ancient, more of, and I don't want to say stuff, that sounds so rude, you know, more of the ancient history, but I have a question. I mean, they're intelligent. They've been around a long time. So why are they presenting themselves to where people are flash seeing them, or you know what I'm saying? They're not. Or do y'all feel they're actually walking amongst us? I mean, I just found out about a phrase, skinwalkers. I've never heard of that. And, you know, that was something somebody brought up, that's what they believe, is they have basically combined with the human race, and they're walking amongst us looking like us. So is that something that y'all have looked into or understand what that is about?
So I think I can answer that. for you in an interview, because what you're basically saying is, why is there such an interest? Why are they getting so involved? And I'm going to, if I can, I'm going to refer to an archaeological site because the answer's there. Okay? There's the site at Bambara, which we actually have written about. It's in our new book, Chandra, and in the one before that we were speaking about earlier. The glyphs there are made up of two sets of glyphs. There is one set, we've got the Egyptian manual for Proto-Egyptian. There's one set there where we've got an 82% match. It's Egyptian. It's a story about two brothers. In fact, we found the cartouche, the Nefertiti, about them coming here, one of them dying, and their boats being stranded. All very simple. But there's another narrative there, a more ancient narrative, written before the Egyptian, and this is the one that gives the answer. Now, we've been working with a gentleman by the name of Laird Scranton, who's one of the world experts on Dogon hieroglyphs, and obviously Egyptian hieroglyphs too, and we've been working together on this for quite some time. Now, this is what we found. When you go to the panel that begins the original story, the more ancient story before the Egyptians, there is a glyph. At the very beginning, the first one is a stick man. 2 arms, 2 legs, stick man. There's no glyph anywhere in the world that is Egyptian that represents that.
Yeah.
We couldn't recognize it anywhere. Laird did. It's Dogon. And what it means is Na-Ki, the very first language. Remember I was saying about the other side, but it's got 2 other words. It's got 2 other meanings. It can mean the very first language, black man or serpent. Now, the original people are black. They have the first language, and their religion is the serpent religion. So that's how it begins. Then above it are 3 circles with a leg. Now, I went through all of the different manuals, and we could never find 3 circles stacked together. I did find 3 running across the horizontal plane that represented chemicals. And with a leg below, I think this could be the creation of man. I went and looked at Laird's book, and lo and behold, on page 220 of Sacred Symbols, that same symbol means DNA, double helix.
Yes.
Now, here's the interesting part of this story. On that first panel, that same motif appears 3 more times in the first panel. On the second time, further down, 3 circles, 2 legs. Now he's got 2 arms. Then one further down, 3 circles, 2 legs, 2 arms, and a pyramid in each hand. Below again, 3 circles with an ellipse going through the stomach. Is that the pregnant one? We don't know. And then next to it is the clanger. We find 3 circles running across in a horizontal plane, joined together, and bisecting the middle of the circle in the center is a sacred staff that's splitting it in half. So someone is splitting that gene. These are all in the first passage. So what I'm saying to you is you're wondering, why is there an interest? On this passage, we also have a symbol that means crystal spaceship, as it should, because we already knew that, didn't we? We also have another one next to that means father. We've got another symbol alongside there. And then what we found as we worked further with Laird, and we started looking at the nondescript symbols that we couldn't read. And then we found something amazing on this panel. The nondescript symbols mean things like earth is bent, the bending grows, bending comes to be, electromagnetic force, string theory, event horizon. And of course we had the Dogon symbol of the fish standing up, twice in the first one there. And we started to read this again and realised, my God, this is actually a statement of science. Words for planet, mass, duality, electromagnetic wave. That is what they were leaving for us. You see, so these aliens, these people from afar, they left us 2 messages. Up on the standing stones, you've got your religious message for us to understand. Down here at this other place, at Bambara, you have a different message. And it tells us the science and what took place. And by the way, the most common glyph of the 300 is the UFO glyph. There are 8 of them. So that's just littered throughout the whole of this story. So that's what we've got.
Interesting. That's
Two
very
different
interesting.
stories.
You're right. You're right. Well, okay, guys, I tell you what, I have my next guest. She's actually patiently been waiting to come on, so I want to go ahead and give y'all this kind of opportunity to kind of get your information out there, your websites, your books, anything that any way anybody can contact you if they want to talk to you more about this subject.
Well, I'll let Evan do that. He's very good at this sort of stuff. It's called organising.
Oh, okay. All right, Evan.
So our website, forgottenorigin.com, and yeah, the latest book that's coming out, Shunned, that should be out soon. It's available on Kindle on Amazon already, and the Ancient Aliens book is available through Amazon for print, but as an ebook through that Forgotten Origin website. And then our other 3 books were actually published by the University Press of America, so that's Constructing a New World Map, Mary Magdalene's Dreaming, and Forgotten Origin. And they're available through Book Depository, Amazon, and University Press of America, their website. On Facebook, I've got a big kind of group called Forgotten Origin, and then we've got the Stephen and Evan Strong Facebook page. So we've got a couple of videos up on YouTube as well, and Egyptians in Australia series, part 1 to 6, and that's pretty cool. It shows some of the sites I've been to. Yeah, that kind of sums up everything that's online, I think. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I'm going to look y'all up on YouTube. I didn't realize y'all were on YouTube also, so that's awesome. Yes, I will. Well, anyway, guys, thank y'all so much for coming on Brett's show. And I know he peeped in for a second, and then he said there was too much noise, so he had to hang up. So he wanted me to tell y'all thank y'all so much, and he appreciates it.
No problem.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you have a great it's evening or daytime for y'all, I think, right? Or
Yep, it's still daytime for us here. Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All righty, thank y'all. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Okay, bye.
All righty, bye-bye. All righty, Kathryn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Hey, Kathryn, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You have waited so patiently, and I appreciate that so much. I'm
That's
so sorry
okay.
about that.
That was very interesting. I was enjoying listening to the show.
Absolutely. They had a very, very great topic, and it's something that I've kind of just started talking into, or actually looking into it. And so anyway, when Brett asked me to do the show, which was fantastic, and I found out exactly, about your haunted collection books.
Actually, I'm broadcasting from a haunted house now. We're getting ready to do a paranormal investigation tonight, so we got more things coming in soon. But yeah, I do books on true paranormal phenomena. I do a little fiction too, but that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. The most popular book that I have is The Ghost Family of Pennsylvania. And that one, it actually has a cover photo that is an actual apparition that we caught. And that's what causes the biggest buzz with that particular title. And then I also have one that is on Spirits of the Old West, that is on the hauntings of Tombstone, Arizona.
Are you sitting out there lonely and feeling left out? Do you want to be included in the world of the paranormal, but really don't know how? We have the paranormal solution for you. Call us at 1-800-RENT-A-GHOST. We can deliver everything from a timid... Are you sitting out there lonely and feeling left out? Do you want to be included in the world of the paranormal, but really don't know how? We have the paranormal solution for you. Call us at 1-800-RENT-A-GHOST. We can deliver everything from a timid spirit that walks the halls or one that simply opens a cabinet door. Or you can get a feisty poltergeist.
Big technical difficulties. Hello?
Oh. Yes, hello.
Hello. Yes, hi.
Hello, is anyone hearing me?
I'm sorry?
This is Kylie. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know
No,
what
that's
happened.
okay,
I think
Kylie.
we just had a hack system.
Okay, so I'm going to let you control it.
This.
You do. Yeah, you do what you got to do. There we go. Hey, Kathryn.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry about that. It seems that I lost you there for a minute.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay, because me and Kylie are trying to work together, and so it's all good. And
yeah, I'm
so
so
you're
sorry.
back.
I didn't know anyone else was on. So.
No, it's fine. And I was like, well, I'm going to play a commercial, and that didn't work. And I was like, oh, man, Brad's going to kill me.
Hey, you know what? It happens.
Hey, it does. So that's all right. You know, he could pay me back later for it. Okay, so anyway, did you get my question? I asked how this all started.
Well, I started out, I was just getting into some paranormal investigations. It's something that I've always been interested in. And I got a call to come and look at this house. This family had said that they had some activity, and they said that there was a face in the window. And I'm like, okay, you know. So I come down, and let me tell you, they weren't kidding. The face that was in the window, it was so amazing. It was like, you remember looking at those old holographic cards you would get, you know, like in the 80s with a pack of gum or whatever?
Yes,
you know
right.
what I mean?
Right.
Where you could see all around it. Well, that's what it looked like, but, I mean, you could see up its nose. You could see in its mouth. You could see, like, the tongue and the teeth. And, like, even, like, there's a cavity in the back tooth. You could see that. You could see everything. And we're talking, this is a face in a window. And it's just kind of looking in. And so I'm like, all right, I've never seen anything like this before. You know? Right. This is way beyond.
You went on this property and saw this, or this was a picture sent to you?
No, I saw it. I was there firsthand. And,
okay.
they called me down to come and look at it. Yeah, I was part of the investigation team.
Okay.
And so we're looking at this face, and we're looking all around it, and we start taking photographs. And we took hundreds of photographs of it. And one of the pictures is actually the cover of one of my books called The Ghost Family of Pennsylvania. And that is on that haunting, that house. It's the story of the face and everything that happened with it. And that's kind of what led me into writing about it. I had so much fun writing the book that I ended up, you know, continuing that. As I go on different investigations, I write different stories about what we come across. But that face, let me tell you, that was the most dramatic thing we had ever seen. Just the detail in it was incredible. And then later on, it's a house that I continue to go back in because the activity is so strong. Later on, we were able to catch another side photograph, of like an apparition that we saw in the living room, and it's the same face. And it turns out it's a child, is what it is. But it's very dramatic, and people are saying, you know, that's what I get the most feedback on the book is, you know, I can't believe this is a real picture.
No kidding. So let me ask you this. Okay, so you're part of a team. Y'all go in, y'all investigate, and this ends up being a picture of a child. What was the feeling in the house as far as getting...
Well, that actually, there's a little bit of a story to that, actually. When we first came in, there was a lot of really mixed feelings, and one of the things that happened a lot is the doors would, there's deadbolt locks on the doors, but they'll unlock themselves and just kind of fling open and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And we actually had somebody come in and do a cleansing, and now there's still activity in the house, but it is not as aggressive as it was originally.
Ooh, okay.
Back before the cleansing, there was like a wailing and a screaming sound a lot. That has passed. So now what you get, you still get, the child spirit is the most dominant, and he runs through the house, and that still happens. But the crying and the upset feeling has passed on now.
Oh, wow.
So there's definitely some improvement there.
Right. Do you feel that there was more than one maybe involved in that in the house?
Yeah, actually, we were there several times, and I continue to go back to this house because it's just so amazing what all happens in there. And we researched some history, and I guess what had happened is back in the the early 1970s, a child had ran out into the street right in front of this house and was killed. And his mother ended up like losing her mind. She was committed to the Pennsylvania State Hospital for about a year and a half. And then when she finally came out, her and her husband committed suicide together. Saying about that they could not handle the loss of their child.
Absolutely.
Now, when we first came in, the wailing sound, that was clearly a woman's voice.
Right.
And after we had, you know, a spiritual cleansing come in, and they talked about, let's find some peace, let's help this family to be reunited. One of the things that was presented to me, now I'm not a psychic, I don't know, but this was a suggestion, was that perhaps the child and the mother were both still present in the house but could not find each other. And that after the cleansing, they were able to be reunited. And that's why there's peace in the house but still a haunting. So they didn't move on, but they found peace. They found what they were looking for. But it's really exciting, actually.
Well, I mean, how long have you been investigating this house?
More than a year now.
Oh, wow. Is it the same owners of the house?
The owners of the house don't actually know about it. It's a rental property.
Oh, it's a rental. Okay.
It's a rental, and the people who rent it, they're kind of afraid to tell the owner.
Oh, wow. I bet you the owners know. You know, I mean, that's the way I feel because, the house I grew up in, my dad now rents it, and it has ghosts in there. We grew up with it, and everybody in my family could tell you about it. I have 6 other brothers and sisters. We all have our own stories, and it was not harmful. It just was there. It let you know it was there. It let you know when you did something you shouldn't have done. I mean, it was weird. It was actually a church. So,
oh, okay.
And so they rented it. That's what you get, that feeling like if you play music too loud, it would you'd hear noises, and you're like, okay, I'm turning it down. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Just please don't come kill me. Growing up back in the day,
yeah.
we didn't have internet. You didn't talk about it. You didn't, say, hey, this. You told friends to have a ghost in the house, and you tell, they think it's a scary story and then they don't want to come over. You know, they're scared.
Right.
Or they experience something, and, you know, they're freaking out as well. So now the renters, they do experience something, but we have renters that are actually there. They're very understanding of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother them. They're okay.
One of the things that had happened, and the story, the Ghost Family of Pennsylvania, is about the renters and their story of moving in. And they actually still live there. And one of the things that had happened is the mother of the family that moved in, not the ghost.
Right.
She had ended up having a really bad accident. She ended up cutting her leg up really bad.
Ooh.
And she wasn't able to walk for a couple of weeks. She ended up like severing an artery and nicking a vein.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was just awful. Well, her husband, he was trying to get ready for work the one night, and he was late. And she up and decided she's going to go and try to get his clothes to help him out so he's not late for work. But she's not supposed to be doing this. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning because that's what time he leaves. So she kind of hobbles her way down the basement steps, and she opens up the dryer. She's kind of like sitting there because she's not supposed to be walking. And she's pulling out his clothes out of the dryer. And behind her, she hears this man's voice she thinks is her husband, and it says, "What are you doing?" You know, just annoyed, just like that. And she's like, "Well, you're late. I'm trying to get your clothes." And then the voice says, "Just go upstairs." Well, she hobbles her way back upstairs, and her husband was outside putting his clothes, you know, his like his lunch and whatever he needs into his car. And he's like, "You know, what are you doing up?" And she's like, "What, you gonna yell at me twice?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" So she tells him that, you know, she was down in the basement. He's like, "You're not supposed to be, are you out of your mind? You can't be walking up and down stairs with your leg like that." And she's like, "Well, if you didn't tell me, who did?" Because it's just them in the house, and, you know, and their children.
Well, that's interesting because so they're not they're okay with it, and
yes,
they're fine.
Yeah, and there seems to be like a fair amount of communication there as well with the father spirit, and the child talks to the children of the family that lives there. So there is a lot that goes on. So we're there a lot trying to do EVPs and things like that. So.
Well, I know there's, privacy, and I do respect that. So if I ask a question that you're like, "Jill, I can't, expose that information," I understand. So, but how old are their children?
The children that live there now are 10, 5, and 2, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the 5-year-old has the most communication with the ghost. And I believe that is because when we've done the research, the child that was killed was about 4.5. So we're talking like the same age. Yeah, it was really tragic, really awful. But one of the things that's really common, and I mean, we've caught it on video and tape many times, is you can hear the child running through the house and see like I don't want to say a shadow figure with the child because there are shadow figures there, but it like casts a shadow, like it's going to be running in front of a light or something. So you'll actually see like the shadow of a kid run by. And it's really neat, actually.
Were y'all able to capture some of this on y'all's equipment, or do y'all use equipment?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, we're actually working on putting together some video. I'll be hosting a YouTube show coming out in fall, and a lot of that footage will be on the show. But I won't be just talking about my stuff. I'll be going around to a bunch of different places and talking with other paranormal investigators and bringing their experiences onto the show as well.
Absolutely. So what experiences have you had that's not been a part of being in a paranormal team? Have you had any younger or?
Oh yeah, I grew up in a house that had activity, and I think that's kind of common among investigators. It seems like everybody had something in their life that kind of drove them to believe and to experiment and to look forward, look for answers. But the house that I grew up in, there was like orbs that would follow me around when I was a little girl. Yeah. And I've always been. I don't want to misrepresent myself. I don't want to say that I'm a medium or a psychic or anything like that, because I'm not.
No, I understand.
But I'm a little bit more sensitive, I think, than some people. I do tend to see a little bit more, hear a little bit more, and it just makes me just a tiny bit more aware. But I don't want to go so far as to say that, I'm not, I can't go out and just communicate. Just have a little bit more of an awareness.
No, absolutely. I get what you're saying, because this is the way I see it. I grew up with it. Then really at the age of 18, 19-ish, I started venturing out. Everybody say, oh, this happened here in this cemetery. Always cemeteries. You start off with cemeteries because they're the creepiest, Why? I have no idea, but they are. And so, we did that. Or I did that, and explored. And I think the more I opened myself up to it, the more that, and of course, a friend of mine, Jerry, would disagree with me, absolutely disagree with me. But I think I opened myself up more to it. So now when I do investigations, I can walk into a room and I can sense a gender. I can sense if it's a gender. I can sense if it's playful. What's actually going on. Even talking to the client on the phone, I can sense different things of what's going on. Yes. And that's what I think. Exactly, you nailed it just right. I think the more that we investigate and we go into this, the more that we're actually opening up ourselves to a whole different level. And then how to cope with that is a whole other story, because how does your team... for instance, if, you get the phone call, you have a client, you'll go and investigate. Do y'all do any type of protection prior to the investigation?
Yes, we do. Actually, several different methods, because we have people on our team from several different faiths and several different backgrounds. And rather than, competing with each other, we incorporate and respect everyone's beliefs, and we share in everything together. So we have, we have like a blessing from Christian faith, one from Wiccan faith. I'm Native American. I do a blessing from, my background. And we just kind of mix that all together, and then we always do a cleansing as we're leaving, so we're not bringing anything with us.
Yes. That's very good, very good. I'm glad to hear you say that. There's a lot of teams out there that actually are not doing this, and, Brett Watson and I talk a lot, and he's an amazing, amazing person, and actually he just feels so terrible that he missed the show, so I just pretty much threatened him that, he better have you back on. So,
that's all right. I talk to him on Facebook every now and again. So.
Very good. No, he's going to have you back on, and so he's going to laugh when he hears this. So I pretty much threatened him. But anyway, and it's all in joke and fun. But and I know he's going to want to. I just boasted about how adorable you are. So anyway, actually, a lot of teams and we've investigated teams. I have a show myself, Paranormal Room Radio, and we've had them come on and did interviews with them, and you would be amazed at some of the teams that actually they're really nonchalant about it. And something, you get a phone call with my cabinet door slamming, I'm a little nervous, I don't know what's going on. You really don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
And I'm just in shock at how some of these teams don't protect themselves, especially when you find out that these team members have families, they're married, they have young children, and I don't know if they realize what they can possibly bring home with them. And that's a topic that Brett and I have talked about. Holy crap, protect yourself.
Yeah.
All the time, protect yourself.
Yeah, we actually have several safety protocols that go on beyond. We of course do the blessing and the cleansing. But we also have a set of safety rules in general that cover everything from, what to do if somebody is injured, what to do if somebody freaks out, and we have people on our team are trained to handle things like shock and stuff like that because you don't know. Now, so far we haven't had anything that has had, that we haven't had to use that, but I think it's important to have a plan in place, not
Absolutely.
just because you might come across something that's harmful, but people sometimes have reactions that can send their body into, a physical distress. So it's important to do that, I think. And I think it's really important that this is something that is kind of a pet peeve of mine if I work with somebody else, to be respectful of the spirits in the house. Because I've worked with people who've come in and they just want to try to agitate to make something happen. And that kind of irritates me because, these were people in most cases, unless you're coming across something, beyond the spectrum of the normal. But to go in and just be rude and ignorant, it's just, I think being respectful gets better results than trying to, poke the bull, so to speak.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of teams that want to go out there and basically they want to provoke and provoke and provoke, and that's just not the way to do it. And they're going to get hurt. And so let me ask you this. What has been, I know you've been working on this, of course, case for a year, been your most memorable case that you've ever done?
Well, that one's probably my most memorable, but I really enjoyed going to Tombstone, Arizona, and going through the Birdcage Theater, which is, well known for its haunting. And I actually did a book on that called Spirits of the Old West, and we went around to all of the buildings there, and the site of the shootout of the OK Corral. And in addition, I researched the history of the most famous people of the area. Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, and the other Earp brothers, Ed Scheifelen, who was the founder of Tombstone, Frederick Brunkow, who had a mine, and he was actually brutally murdered in his mine. He had like a drill press run through his body. And the mine is said to be haunted, too, so we did an investigation there. There was so much going on in that general area that one was also very memorable. There's just so much activity. It's unbelievable.
Like what kind of activity? Like what went on?
In the Birdcage Theater itself, you can hear poker chips, you can smell cigar smoke. You can hear piano playing, sometimes gunshots, that kind of thing. There is a room in the back that belonged to Sadie Jo, who was Wyatt Earp's wife. And she wanted to be like a movie star, like really bad when movies first came out. And it is said that if you go and you take several pictures in her room, she will come out and pose. We did that. We got a few mist-like forms. So there's some validation to that claim. So if anybody goes, the Birdcage Theater is pretty open to people doing that. You just need to ask, and for the most part, they say, yeah, go ahead, Sadie Jo, love it. So it was really fun to get to go and do that.
Yeah, because I think one of the, not to bring up another TV, I don't watch the paranormal shows anymore. I used to a long time ago. But one of them did the Tombstone area. I'm not sure which one, and they caught some stuff too.
Really?
Cards and the cards, the shuffling of a deck and stuff like that.
It's very interesting. One of the things that we experienced, and we were able to find a few people that I did not see in any shows or hear about in other places until we actually started investigating ourselves, is the possibility of Doc Holliday's ghost being there. Now, he's also reported being at the two locations where he may or may not be buried. There's like a question as to where he's buried. But the thing that's fascinating all 3 locations report the same type of an apparition. People are saying that they are seeing a man that is hunched over, that he is coughing, but that he, that he is dressed more like a Southern man than an Old West man, and that all follows suit with who Doc Holliday was. He was a Southern gentleman who became a dentist, and then he ended up getting tuberculosis. And once he got sick, he got very mean, and he ended up becoming a ruthless gunfighter, and he killed a lot of people in cold blood. And then a funny story about how he actually died. The day he died, he was sitting there drinking whiskey, which he was, fond of his drink. Of course, who wasn't in the Old West? But he was sitting there staring at his feet, and there were people around him. And at that point, he was so sick, he was just crazy for the most part. But he's staring at his feet, and, his friends are around him, and he says, "That's funny. I always thought I would die with my boots on like a true gunfighter," and then he dropped over dead. He was staring at his bare feet. And so it's really interesting that would be his final moments. But we found it interesting that that this apparition, this coughing apparition, is seen in Tombstone. It's seen behind a building which is now known as Big Nose Kate's Saloon, and that was his sort of girlfriend, kind of like an unofficial girlfriend.
Right.
And also on the main street there, and in Colorado and in Georgia, at the 2 locations where he has grave markers. So it's really interesting you don't normally see ghosts that travel around, and to get the same kind of reports, we thought that was really, really cool, actually.
I think it's neat because, maybe they leave their imprints.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, is they leave their imprints, and that's, to me, maybe that's why they're able to, I saw, for instance, Doc Holliday over here in this state and then maybe over in this state. So, yeah, I think that's a possibility. Absolutely.
Another thing that I talked about in the book with that particular ghost, that particular spirit, is since his body was moved back and forth, and nobody really knows where it's buried. You can find 2 grave markers with him. It's possible that his spirit is restless because he doesn't have a final resting place. He's split between 2 locations. And then with Stone being the most significant part, place in his life, that's a 3rd location that he's kind of tied to. So, yeah, that's something else that I discussed. Yeah.
No, I think it makes sense because, to me, well, a little bit, I'm not a real big history buff person. And so, like, the little bit I know of him, I just gathered that he didn't stay in one place too long. So,
well, yeah, because he got himself in trouble mostly.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, from what I understand, his mouth was, so, he didn't stay in. So, yeah, I would agree. I mean, if he's seen all over, absolutely.
Yeah, he got himself into a fair amount of trouble. He'd end up getting, he dealt a game called Favo, which is like poker, but more, for the time period. And he was known for, he would be pretty calm, pretty collected, but if somebody cheated or accused him of cheating, most of those people ended up dead. There is a story that he just reached underneath the table and just disemboweled somebody while they were sitting there playing cards.
Holy
and he didn't even get up. He just did it, and then he put his cards out. He's like, I win. So that's who he ended up becoming, yeah.
Well, I think he was good at cards, but I also think he was a cheater myself. But that was me. That's my personal opinion. I don't really know, but I do think he was really good, but I think, when he noticed he was losing, he had a cheating side to him. And
yeah, I'm sure he did. But it goes with the times. I mean, it was a rowdy time. But,
So
and then, of course, he goes and makes friends with Wyatt Earp and the other Earp brothers who were the lawmen of the area, and is like, yeah, okay, my buddy is, my buddy's in charge, so they're just going to look away kind of thing.
Well, has anybody ever said anything about, I've never researched this, but has anyone ever said anything about as far as, like, seeing Wyatt Earp's ghost
Wyatt Earp's ghost? No. Morgan Earp's, yes. Morgan Earp was actually murdered while he was playing pool, and Wyatt Earp was there with him. He was shot through a window.
Right, right.
The building that he was killed in is now a general store, and I can't for the life of me think of what it's called, Red something. But
this is
every night when they close down the building, he goes and rearranges things on the shelf. Or he'll even, like, open up boxes when they get deliveries. They'll come in, and the next morning things will be just scattered around the floor. And the belief that it is Morgan Earp is because this particular entity seems to respond to the name Morgan. And
really?
Upon doing some history, he was kind of obsessive-compulsive in his life, had to have everything organized a certain way, and was constantly rearranging things wherever they were. Even when they went to the bird cage where they were there a lot, he would rearrange the poker chips, have to have everything stacked up exactly right. So that kind of behavior follows suit with his personality as well.
Oh, wow.
But Wyatt Earp actually died in California, not Tombstone, so there might be something there that I wasn't able to trace.
Anything else in Tombstone remarkable happened that's...
Yeah, actually there was the Hanged Five. Back in Scottsdale, Arizona, there were these 5 men who figured out that there was a little tiny store that was holding the payroll cash, which, at that time was actually cash, not checks. And they thought, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna rob this store. But they're all amateurs; they don't know what they're doing. And they show up. They show up to rob the store like 5 hours before the delivery is actually made. So there's no money there. When they realize this, they're totally embarrassed, and their response to that is to go on a shooting spree through Bisbee, Arizona. They just went up and down the streets and shot everyone they saw. It was horrible. One woman in particular that was shot, they just were randomly firing bullets, and it went through a wall of a house and shot and killed a pregnant woman.
Oh, wow.
And, the baby. When these 5 men were caught, they were drugged to Tombstone and hung, all 5 of them. And it was a big public spectacle. About half the citizens were like, yes, they should hang for what they do, and the other half were like, this is not the answer. Look at how deadly our town has become. You can't walk down the street. You can't do anything. Now we've got public hangings. There was a group of women who actually tried to sabotage the hanging booth just because they didn't want their children being drug out to see this. And that's the way that it was when there was a public hanging. Everybody came out. It was like, watching a fight or something. And they tried to stop it. Well, these 5 men are buried there in Boot Hill, and there is a lot of evidence of spirits that look like they're rising up out of the graves from these 5 men. One very famous photograph actually shows the top half of a man sticking up out of the grave wearing like a cowboy hat. But I couldn't put it in my book because I couldn't find the original owner of the picture. I couldn't get permission. I was like, oh, man.
Oh, man. Oh.
I wanted to put it in so bad, but, I don't use anything without permission. So I was like, I couldn't figure out who the original owner was.
Right. I understand that. Absolutely. Is there any place that you would like to go to?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. There's a lot of places. This year, we're going to do Gettysburg all summer. and do that as thoroughly as we possibly can, because that's, it's a huge place in America.
Yes, it is.
So I'm really excited about getting to spend the summer in Gettysburg, and doing long-term investigations several nights in a row in each place, and then coming back and following up. It really gives us a better chance to capture more evidence and to give people a better peace of mind as to what's going on.
Gettysburg is amazing. I'm going to tell you, I've seen some very interesting video clips of Gettysburg that I can't even explain it, because the family that shot this video of it, God, I don't even know if you can find it on YouTube anymore. It's old. They shot the, I'm sorry, that was my husband's phone, excuse me. They shot what it is, they were seeing lights. They couldn't explain it. And so it was like it was weird. The lights were appearing taller than a normal person. Mm-hmm. And then it would fade out and then come back in, but it was also like ghostly figures at the same time. It was weird. That was the weirdest video I've ever seen. Just because... Yeah,
there's so much that goes on in Gettysburg. It's just, that's why we want to spend so much time there. There's just so much to cover.
Absolutely.
And so many claims to look into.
Absolutely. For the listeners, why don't you tell them a little bit about Gettysburg and some of the claims that maybe you have heard about Gettysburg?
Okay, well, Gettysburg was the biggest battle in the Civil War. They were saying something like 50,000 people per day would die because of how brutal the killings were. And there's also like stories that people don't know a lot about. I mean, everybody focuses on the soldiers, and that's a huge part of it. And I don't want to, leave the soldiers out. But a big thing that has been reported in the paranormal community is that children of the soldiers were often orphaned. And they were kept in, these houses together, and there are reports that many of these children were abused. They were either neglected or they were abused. And one of the things we really want to look into is the reports of ghostly children in these houses where they were kept. So that's a big thing. And then some of the more common claims during the battlefields, and there's several of them, there are orbs. You can hear the sounds of people walking, horses clomping. There's this one road that kind of cuts through a field, and we have caught, when we went before, on several occasions, kind of see-through glimmers that look like people walking across this road. And it turns out that this particular road was where the Confederate soldiers were trying to sneak up on the Union, kind of cut and cross through the woods there. So, and it didn't work out. They were caught, and most of them were shot right there. So that explains a lot of that activity as well. But, almost every building there has reports. The battlefields have reports, and the surrounding areas. So there's quite a bit, tons of photographic evidence, mostly orbs and mist. But, and some of that, you have to understand, some of that is going to be dust because it does look like orbs.
Yes,
but
I agree. I agree with you so much. Thank you.
But I try my best not to just outwardly say I would rather have a photographic expert say, because I don't want to discredit anything anybody says, just like, oh, okay, I try to be open-minded. I try to be, to take everything and give it the benefit of the doubt. But we do try to send everything out to a photographic expert so that those things that are not paranormal can be set aside so that we can focus on what we really need to be investigating.
Right. I agree with you. I mean, myself, I get pictures of different things, and what I try to tell people when they send me pictures of what I would consider dust or or anything of that nature, I try to say, you know, what are you feeling in this room at this time? Because I'm not there.
Right.
You know, so to me, a lot of it looks like dust. It does. I mean, we watch monitors all the time. We know. I know
Right.
what it looks like. I've watched people walk their room, and I'm going, okay. So I look for anomalies, something that's so solid it's unreal. And, you know, I've seen it. So I agree with you on that. We are such on the same wavelength. It's scary. I love
well,
it.
you know, great minds think alike, right?
That's right. You need to be on my team. You need to come to Louisiana and be here. Actually, we have a caller, so I'm going to actually, they're already, no, they're not. So hang on 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, 661, you're on the air.
Hello, Jill. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad, Jill. Not bad. Thanks for filling in for me today.
Yeah, I know I'm doing a great job, huh, Brett? You know? Me and Kathryn
I don't know. Kathryn, is she doing a good job?
I hope so.
You hope so, Kathryn. Don't dog me like that. Look at this. This is terrible.
Oh, no, not you. I thought he meant, am I doing a good job?
No, Jill's doing a good job.
Oh, yeah, you're doing a great job.
No, you better listen to the show because we were talking bad about you. So you might want to listen in because you know how I am.
Oh, I'll be listening back. Don't you worry about it. I will be listening back.
Oh, great. You're going to hear my little mess up in the beginning, but that's okay. We had a disconnection of poor Kathryn. I'm so sorry. And
that's okay.
What's going on? It's all good, though. It's good. It's good. No need to worry.
We had a...
I'd check in and say thanks to Kathryn for coming on.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
No worries. Yeah, and she will be back on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anytime.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how to find me.
I'm just messing with Brett.
That's all right. That's all right, Jill. That's all right.
Well, that's okay.
I've got a tally going.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Beyond Paranormal is going to become my show, so anyway. No, I'm just kidding. He's like, yeah, you're not funny, Jill. I'm just joking. All right, we're done with you. We're done. We're going to go back to our conversation. Unless you have a question for. Look, he dropped.
Did he get dropped?
Yeah, he hung up. That's okay. No, I'm just joking with him. I am totally joking with him. Anyway,
he's like, okay, I'm done with these two chicks now.
Yeah, he's like, okay, these chicks are weird. I'm out of here. Okay.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
What is your take on? I know he's so funny. What is your take on Waverly? If you ever had an opportunity to do that, would you do it?
Yeah, I think that I would. I mean, I never want to turn anything down, and, you know, I'm always interested in going to new places. I think it's really important that the more places that I go to, I feel like the more that I learn and the more that I understand, and the more that I can bring this to people. You know, when I write my books, one of the goals is to help people find some peace of mind. If they're experiencing something like this, I don't want them to be fearful. I want them to have an understanding. And I think that the more that I can learn, the more I can share with others. So, yeah, definitely.
Wow. Okay. See, that place kind of freaks me out, but that's me because there's so much darkness to it that, you know, I actually
have a theory about that, but I don't know if I really want to go into it. Try to summarize it, my feeling about energy in general and this kind of goes into physics, so I'm going to try not to be like too scientific. But
no, go ahead.
Energy in general, it's never created, it's never destroyed, it's transformed. And the same is true for people, well, for all form of energy, but, you know, take a person, when they go through their life experiences transforms that person. It transforms how they relate to things, how they, you know, how they become, how they develop, what kind of personalities they have, the decisions they make, and so forth and so on. And I believe the same is true for spirits, that different experiences can transform that energy. And if you've got a spirit that's kind of malicious in nature, I have had quite a bit of success working, you know, with other professionals to bring that spirit to a point of peace where they can either move on, or if they choose that they're not ready to move on for whatever reason, able to find, you know, a harmonious place, a sense of peace. It's harder with the negative spirits, but you have to treat it as just energy. If something happens so bad to transform it to being negative, then having some positive interactions can bring it back. Not in all cases, but for the most part. That's kind of like the theory of it. You have to treat it as a transformation, not we have to banish it. Because that doesn't really work, really. What that will do, when people come in and they say, okay, I'm going to banish this negative spirit, it holds it off for a little while, and then it comes back. It can't be destroyed. Energy is never really destroyed. You have to help it transform and move on. So that's kind of like a summary of it. But yeah, I think that because of my understanding of energy in general, helps me not to be real fearful. I'm usually the first one to be able to go into places that even other investigators are like, no, I don't know about this.
You're like,
I usually,
yeah.
You know, I usually can find enough peace, and I think that I bring a lot of peace with myself, because I try to be a very positive person, and I think I kind of put that energy out. I'm not threatening. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
no,
I come in
no,
being
I understand.
respectful, and for the most part, even spirits that tend to be aggressive generally relate pretty well to me, and I think it's because I'm non-threatening and because I'm respectful and positive, and, you know, I don't, like, invade. You know what I mean?
No,
I try to come in peacefully.
I really agree with you, because that's, you know, the team, we, here in Louisiana, we investigated a jail. They called it the hanging jail. This jail was awesome. I'm not going to lie. It was fantastic. Kathryn, we had the best experience there. And, you know, we caught footsteps. And it was so weird about this jail was the connection to the courthouse, the actual courthouse. What they did is they had an underground tunnel, and that's how they transported the prisoners to the jail. And so we were sitting in this tunnel. It's pitch black. I mean, everything off. There was no electricity to it, so we could not set up cameras. So all we had was all of our handhelds and, you know, our, of course, pictures, stuff of that nature, and our, you know, digital voice recorders is all we could bring in. And it was amazing. It was so much. At the same time, it was so negative. It was so thick that at one point we're sitting there, and I touched the girl I was feeling for her, actually, and I grabbed her arm, and she said, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I thought you stood up," because it felt like something was like right in my face. And I said, "Well, I feel like
I've experienced things like that before. It's like a heaviness almost.
It was so heavy. It was thick. You could cut it with a knife. And, you know, so somebody was like, well, what you going to do? I said, I'm getting up, and I'm going to see what this is about. I'll be right back. Are y'all okay? You know, somebody come with me, because we don't investigate alone. There's always, There's always either a team of 2 or 3. There's always somebody. I like a team of 3 better, but usually it's 2. And of course, it depends on your team members who can make an investigation or not. But everybody made it. So I got up. She came with me, and we were walking. And you hear this. What it is to walk down into that tunnel. It almost sounds like if you're walking on board, like just a plywood, boom, boom. And so when I was getting up to go see what was in my face, I just stood up, basically to face it. Not in a negative way, just to stand up and say, hey, what's going on? And I started walking because it started moving, and we heard that noise. So we were like, what is that? We were alone. And so everybody, I said, look, let's go. Everybody, don't run, but let's just go because it was dangerous. And so we walked through. Everybody, 2 guys ran around the whole jail just to make sure nobody was messing with us. And we were alone. I mean, absolutely alone. We caught what sounded like we set a recorder up into the it's so weird because if you go on my website, you'll see what I'm talking about. It was a spiral staircase to go upstairs into the jail. And it spiraled, and then it opened up into the jail cells. And then it spiraled again, and then you went into the different sections of the jail. It was weird. And what we caught was just a moaning and a screaming, and it reminded me of the clanking noise we heard. It reminded me of kind of like somebody with a tin cup that would rub scrape the cup across the bars, the jail bars.
Well, you know what? That's a very distinct possibility for the setting that it was.
Absolutely.
I mean, they did that, So
absolutely, and I mean this jail is no longer in use. And actually, they were going to make it a museum, and now the fire marshal shut it down, so we can't even investigate it anymore.
Oh, it's no fun.
I know. yeah, no fun because we wanted to go back. So it was just one of those things, So I don't know. I thought it was kind of neat,
Yeah, I know what you're saying about coming in with just handheld stuff. Just 2 days ago, I was up in a cemetery that is filled with Revolutionary War soldiers, and that particular cemetery is quite close to an area in Berwick, Pennsylvania, that's known as the Triangle. And we went and investigated 3 things: the Triangle, a house that is reported haunting, and this graveyard. And it's just out in the middle of nowhere. There's no electricity, so it's all handheld. We go into the graveyard, and everything starts going haywire. All of the cameras start going out. We had to keep retrying for our EVP sessions because as soon as we'd start to talk, our recorders would go out. The meters all went out. It was a nightmare. But we're still going through what we did manage to catch, so maybe there's something there amidst all of that. But that's one of the downfalls. If you've got things that work on batteries and you go into an area and your batteries die immediately, it's like now what? But it was an interesting place to go. If nothing else, there's so many grave markers that are marked with these little plaques that say from the Revolutionary War, and everything that we could actually read the name of, we were, calling out the soldiers by name, and, we'd like to talk to you. Will you talk with us? So maybe something will come up in the recording.
No, I'm sure it will. Absolutely, I'm sure it will. My husband actually asked me this earlier, but we got into a deep conversation. He said, was there ever a case, he wanted to know if there was ever a case that you did not accept, that you felt was not right.
Well, me personally? No,
yes.
So far I haven't turned anything down.
Okay.
Because my big thing with it isn't, part of it is, yes, that I want to learn, but I also want to help people. And when people call up and they want somebody to come in, they're terrified in most cases. They don't know what the heck is going on. And I don't want to turn my back on anyone who says, please come and tell me what's going on here.
Right.
So So at this point, no, I haven't. But, going back to what I was saying about energy, if anybody encounters something that they feel is negative, take a few deep breaths and try to not let it affect your own energy. As long as you're putting out something positive, generally speaking, that helps to protect you and it helps to keep things a little more calm. It's when people start to freak out that it's like that fear fuels it.
Right.
So,
I understand what you're
saying.
saying.
Just a little safety tip for anybody who might encounter something and don't really know what they're doing on. You can back away. By all means, back away. But, think of it as like you're approaching a wild animal. You don't want to take it to a bad place.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't feel that way. They get scared and fear and different things. I mean, me as an investigator, if I feel something's not right, which I feel there's something dark there, I'm not going to, my thing is I have to look out for my team. So
right.
If I feel that there's any member of the team that's not ready for this or not right, or myself, because, in honesty, like I told you earlier, talking on the phone, I can sense some things. If there's something that's not right, there's a lot of preparation on my part. Now, this is personally me speaking for my team that I have to prepare for. So, the way I see it is if I can't do it and I'm not ready for it, I'm not going to. I'm not going to subject everybody to it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And that's one of the things, like I was talking about safety protocols. When we bring somebody new in, or even people who've been, for a while, if somebody says, hey, you know what, I got to get out of here, we respect that, and everybody has like a meeting place, and, we can stop, we can, take a few moments to recuperate, or if we have to leave, we have to leave. That doesn't happen too often, but I think it's because I'm working with professionals who have years of experience. We're at the point where it's like, okay, you know what, something touched me, let's get out of this room, but it's not a pack up and leave thing usually. But
right.
But we have on a couple of several occasions recommended that people get a cleansing done, or there's something here that maybe isn't the best thing for your family. We try to be honest with people about it.
Absolutely.
If we've come across things that are aggressive, we don't want anybody to be hurt. And in some cases, some places just need to be unoccupied, and in other cases, you can help the spirits to move on, or you can find a way to coexist. So just got to take it case by case and step by step, I guess.
Well, I want to ask you this. I want to bring up Ed and Marcia Becker. I don't know if you watched any of the paranormal shows. They were on Paranormal Witness, and actually they went through something really horrific. Watching, that's how we met, was through Paranormal Witness, and actually, to be honest, I wouldn't step foot in that house. It's not that I'm scared. I don't know how to describe it. What they went through was horrific. And but as I told them at the same time, it's amazing because it's brought so many people close to y'all. They've turned to y'all for help and understanding of what they were going through and different things. Their show was actually called The Tenants, and which was funny was because they left, they moved, they couldn't. They were done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing was the tenants was actually the people, the spirits that were there. They had a very well-known psychic that actually came in and tried to help them exorcise the house. You can see it on YouTube. It's crazy. Those type of cases, I just couldn't subject myself to.
Oh, yeah. I totally understand. I've been lucky, I think, so far that I haven't come across something that I can't handle, or that I felt that, my team can't handle, and everybody has a voice. There's nobody like in charge of anybody else. We kind of like collectively, together.
What's
so
the
far
name of your team?
We've been lucky. Right now I'm working with a couple of different ones.
That's
the
good.
Spirit Reachers, Coast Paranormal, and West End Paranormal Society. So a couple of different groups at this particular time. So it really depends on where I'm going and who I'll be working with. I do have a couple of individuals that stay with me, but we don't have like an official, group.
Right.
But we do join in with others. So.
Absolutely.
But the Spirit Reachers is a group here in Pennsylvania. They actually have a teen paranormal group, and they don't take them into any place that would be dangerous. But they do a lot of great work for the community, and I'm actually going to be doing a book on them to try to raise money for the teens and for their charity work. And coming up pretty soon, we're going to have a zombie dance, which is going to be awesome. We have one of the cast members from The Walking Dead coming, and we're all going to dress up like zombies.
No,
and
that's like my favorite show. Who is it?
I love it. It's awesome. You know what? To be perfectly honest with you, it's somebody who plays a walker, and I don't know exactly what his name is.
No, that's awesome.
But,
though. That's my favorite series. So
I didn't even care who it was. It was just like, that's awesome. But anyway, all of that money is going to go to the Janet Weiss Children's Hospital here in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
so
nice.
I really like working with them because they give back to the community in so many different ways, and I think that's super important as well. And then this summer, I'll be tagging along with the Ghost Detect TV show that is filmed here, and I'm going to be doing kind of a behind-the-scenes book on them, trying to help them to promote their show and get their stuff out there too. So that's some exciting things going on.
What about Ryan Buell? Anything with him or?
Not at this particular moment, but hey, maybe some in the future. It would be nice.
Yeah. I used to watch his show, and I was just curious. When you said Pennsylvania, I was like, oh man, Ryan Buell, and I was disappointed that his show stopped. I know there was speculation on a bunch of stuff, and I don't want to know the gossip. So,
you get that a lot.
Yeah,
and around here, it's even worse because all the paranormal investigators around here kind of know each other. So it's like I just try to be, okay, everybody knows everybody. It's it's like being in a small town.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do an interview with him. He's one of the people that I would like to talk to, and so I just hated to see the series end, but it did. And but any places that he investigated that you would like to go to?
Nothing that I can think of offhand. But the Pennsylvania Paranormal Society with Mark Kaye, who they were featured on The Haunted on Animal Planet a couple of times, did one that's it's a building that was an asylum and an animal testing hospital, and I still want to get into there. I cannot think of where it's located offhand, but I have it in my notes. And I was talking with them about some of the great things that they captured in there, and the people that own the building now are trying to use it as a computer startup company, and they're getting a lot of interference with their computers.
No.
So I really want to go and try to help them out, try to ease that energy a little bit, because you can't really run a server if you have interference going on every 5 seconds.
Right.
So
you would actually say that your team is not just gaining evidence to learn from it. You're also into helping out, people, cleansing, that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. we don't always do a cleansing. Sometimes we suggest it or can help people to find others. When we do that kind of thing, it really has to be respectful and based on the belief systems and religious preferences of the people involved. I don't want to just drag somebody in that might be doing something that the family's going to be like, what is going on here? The building owners. So we try to match people up with what is the best fit for them. And they all seem to work about the same way. And that goes back to, my theory on energy. I think that we all kind of, it doesn't really matter what you believe because it's all kind of the same thing anyway.
It actually is. I don't like to label religion like Catholic, Protestant, Baptist, whatever. I don't like that. I really don't. If somebody was to label me, I'm non-denominational. So,
yeah.
I was raised Catholic and, my husband invited me to a church and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the spirit, the fire, everything that was involved in it. And, I'm not knocking anyone that's Catholic. Please don't take it that way. It just, it fed my soul better. And that's the way I see it. My spirit, I had more out of it than I did belonging to the Catholic religion. But I think anybody if you want to label your religion, my co-host of my show, we agree the same way that we don't like to talk about it that way. We believe in a higher power, and that's God. The end. That's it. So we don't label each other as anything. And we know that we walk with God. So there's a lot of places that scare the crap out of me. I'm going to admit to it. I know there's God, crap, I don't remember where it is located, to be honest. The catacombs. That is something that I've always been. The catacombs. Is it not Italy?
Are we talking the ones in? Is it France or Italy? Is it
Italy? It's Italy. It is Italy.
Yeah,
where
they have all the
skulls in that as well.
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
Oh.
You saw that
my
episode. You know what I'm talking about. That freaky guy.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I am so interested in that. I would walk in that, but then I'm scared because I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to carry some rope or something, because I don't want to get lost. But I'm so interested in that, and that is so weird to me because I don't know why, but I am. And that's like one of those things I would love to investigate. I mean, a lot of people are castles, and I get that as far as being outside the United States. But the catacombs, oh, yeah.
I'm hoping someday that I can travel around to different places, different parts of the world, different different states here in the United States, and it's interesting to see both the similarities and the differences in both the culture and in the paranormal phenomenon. It's really, I just would love to be able to travel all over and just see everything that I possibly could.
Absolutely. Okay, let me ask you this. I have to ask you, Louisiana, if you were to come here, where do you want to go?
Okay. I heard about a graveyard there that has like these huge, I want to say, not really like grave markers, but everybody's like encased in like I don't want to say catacombs, but like monuments.
And yeah, they are. Yes, they're above ground. Yes.
Yeah, I would love to be able to see that because that's different from, the places that I have been. You don't see too many of that. You'll see like one or two, and that's only for like the very, very wealthy or the very, very prominent people of the area. Yeah, I think it would be really fascinating to see what kind of changes there is in the paranormal activity in a graveyard if the bodies are above ground as opposed to, 6 feet under. So that's something I would definitely like to see.
Well, see, the reason is because we are a flood state. Okay,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a flood state. Now, understand that not everyone, you see the, oh, crud, I hate to say this way because I'm not disrespecting the dead, but I mean, there are times we've laid equipment on, the above, and what it is kind of I don't know how to say it. It's almost like a flotation device. It's sad. In other words, if it flows, if it was to flood so bad, those markers will still be, they'll be there. In other words, they're still buried deep down. But it's, if you go into the New Orleans area, they did bury a lot of their people above. San Luis, which is one of the famous cemeteries, of course, because of the voodoo. A lot of times that if you go to New Orleans, you go to Bourbon Street area, the party part. I hate to say it. You go, all of that at one point, honestly, was graveyards. They moved.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So now you've got a whole new interest spark. I got to make my way to Louisiana. Now I have to.
Yes, they moved them. They moved a lot of them because basically New Orleans is like a gumbo bowl. I don't know how to explain it, There's barriers all around, that area. And so they relocated the graveyards because it was flooding so bad. And, my question always was, did you move the markers or did you actually move the bodies? There's a lot of ghosts that have been seen walking in the market area, the French Quarter area, different things of that nature. There was a lot of freaky stuff that happened. Anyway, so it's neat. It's neat. One thing to know that if you ever do visit Louisiana and you go to New Orleans and you do the graveyards, understand this, that actually, Madame Laveau was one of the main voodoo people, and everybody, I need to show you pictures. I have to send you pictures of what people put on at her. Seriously, it's crazy.
Brett has my Facebook address. You send me a friend request. You can send me the stuff through that.
I'm going to send it to you because you would be amazed at what people do. But the crazy thing is to know an actual voodoo buried person. They did not put a name. There is no name. It's a very crumbled looking marker, and there's 3 X's.
Okay, I've seen that in pictures.
Yes. Those are actual voodoo buried people. And
what's really fascinating about that, not to interrupt you, but when we were talking about the whole thing with Doc Holliday, one of his graves has the 3 X's on it. I don't know if it's associated with that in any way, but it was something that nobody seems to understand why that's there. But it does. It has the 3 X's.
Oh, I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that until you just said it. I was like, oh, my God, it's on there. It's the one in Colorado.
I don't know. Maybe that is a dominatory mark of, but I know in Louisiana that was a mark of an actual voodoo person. And what was funny is nothing was ever placed on those graves. No little notes or pictures or whatever, because you wouldn't believe the tourists that actually come out there and they want somebody to love them or whatever it is. They leave lipstick, money, coins. It's crazy. It's crazy. I have actual pictures of that. I know it's on, if it's not on my Facebook, then it's actually on my website. That I was just in amaze. I kept taking pictures of it because I was in shock at what people leave. Locks of hair. It's crazy.
Yeah, send me the link to that. I'd love to check that out.
Absolutely. I will. I'm going to befriend you on Facebook, and that way
you do that.
I'll send you all that.
Sounds great.
It's crazy. We still have 25 minutes left, so we're still doing good, and Brett said I can go as long as I want, so. So we can talk about anything else you want to talk about. If you want to talk about You know what? Let's talk about your books, because I want to know how many books you have out. I want to know titles of them, that sort of thing for the listeners. So whichever book you want to start with, let's go with it.
Okay, well, the first book that I talked about early in the show is called The Ghost Family of Pennsylvania, and that is the one that has the cover is one of the actual pictures of the ghost that we caught, and if you look real closely on it, it's pretty good. You can see it on Kindle. The picture on it is pretty good if you click on it to make it a little bit bigger. You can look inside the mouth and, all that. You can see it in the picture, so that's cool. That book, actually, right now there is a contest going on with it. Anyone who picks it up on Kindle and leaves a review before, I think it's June 25th, is entered to win an EMF meter. So
very good, very good.
And it's a pretty good chance of winning. It's based on the number of reviews that come in from that amount of time. So, and it's a nice meter, brand new. I don't know the maker of it because I'm not the one actually doing it, but
okay.
But it's only on it's only on Kindle. So you just have to go up there and check that out. The second book we talked about on the show is called Spirits of the Old West, and that's the one about Tombstone and all of the famous people from that area. That one talks about both the ghosts, and there's also biographical stories of some of the most prominent historical figures included in there, so people kind of get like a background of the history of everything that led up to the haunting. I have one called Haunted Collections 2013, which is a collective works of various investigations and things from last year.
Yeah.
And then I have one that's not a true paranormal story, but a paranormal children's fiction book called The Haunted Lighthouse. And that one is actually being read in grade school, so I'm really excited about that. I've been doing interviews with teachers, and this one class in Arizona, where is it? Cooperville or Copperville, something like that. I'm not exactly sure where. But the whole class actually drew me pictures and wrote me letters to get me to come on and do like a Skype interview with the class, so I'm really excited to do that. I just couldn't believe all these kids had done that. It was so sweet. And then I have some fiction titles. I actually wrote one that is a little more adult nature, and that's called Alyssa's Desire. And the name for that is Kristen Rain, and the reason I chose a different pen name is because I did not want that one being associated with the children's book. You get where I'm going, right?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
And then I have another one that's a fiction title called Scorch, and it's kind of like an end of the world kind of story about a solar flare that kind of fries the earth, but the story is more about the way that the governments are trying to take like the wealthy and the I'm not against wealthy people. Rich people are going to be mad at me everywhere. No, but I mean the more prominent people and the high politicians and whatever, and we're going to just save people of certain classes, and everybody else is just doomed. Well, the story follows a group of people who keep seeing this vision of this old man, this like crazy homeless old man. He just pops up in people's dreams and visions, and they end up following him. And later in the story, it turns out this is actually Noah from the Bible, and he is gathering people by twos and the animals by twos, and he's like kind of crazy about it though. He's like, everything has to be twos. He's got like 2 bottles sitting next to each other and 2 bars of soap. He's gotta be like, there's a little bit of comedy in it too. But in the end of the book, not to totally spoil it, the people who live their life being good, not necessarily being downright religious, but people who try to help others, do good things, they're the ones who survive, and those who live their lives, out of greed and disrespect for others, they don't make it. So that one will be coming out later this summer. And actually, funny story as to how I got the idea for that book. It's not my original idea. My husband's boss pitched the idea to me. He's like, come on, I want to talk to you about it since you're a writer. I want to share this idea with you. And we sat down and collaborated over the last few months. And so he doesn't know it yet, but I'm listing him as an author as well. So it'll be a nice little surprise for him when the book comes out. Yeah, he told me, he's like, oh, no, it's just this idea that I had, and, you're the writer, you run with it. But when it comes out, I want his name to be in print, that, it was his idea. And, hopefully that just kind of makes his day to this story that he had in the back of his mind for years and years.
Oh.
And then I have several more that I'm working on that will be coming out toward the end of the year. There's Wasteland, which is, going back to the whole Walking Dead thing. It's kind of like the same premise as that. You've got major stuff going on. It's the whole, survivalist type mentality. It's not zombies, but it's people who are fighting with each other in the, in the wake of a major disaster kind of thing. So instead of, take out the whole Walker thing, just think about, the prison versus the governor kind of scenario for that one. And then I have the books on the Spirit Reachers Teen Paranormal Society and the behind the scenes for Ghost Detectives. So there's quite a few titles that will be out this year, and most of them are already out. Most of them are available on Amazon Kindle. Some are available in bookstores and other places, so just have to Google it. But Amazon is
neat.
Yeah.
No, I think
Amazon is probably the easiest place. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's neat that you're doing different stuff. It's not just all about paranormal. So that's neat, though. I like that.
I've got so many ideas. It's just not even.
There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. No.
My husband laughs at me because I have 23 half-written novels on my laptop, and he's like, "Are you ever going to finish those?" I'm like, "Yeah, I will, actually."
Oh, that's awesome.
It just depends on where, my mind is and what I'm doing. Follow whatever. I kind of live in the moment, I suppose. Things get done eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do. I mean, how many unfinished projects does anyone else have? I mean, always. So,
oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I do work on them, though. I'm like, when I'm not out investigating something, chances are I'm writing something. Kind of am attached to my laptop, so.
So how often do you get to investigate?
Well, not as much as I'd like to, but it's because I have a baby at home, a couple other young children.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I understand.
So I get to go when their dad is either off or I can find a babysitter, but unfortunately, more often than not, I have to pass. I have a baby that's still nursing, so when I can't leave him too often for an overnight thing.
No, I understand that. Absolutely understand that.
But, when they get a little bit older, I think I'll be out quite a bit. And then, this summer they're coming with us to Gettysburg. But, their dad is just going to, watch them while I go and do my thing, and then we'll do stuff together as a family. And, my kids are pretty open-minded about it.
And I sent you a friend request because I would love, please, I want to know about how which I've captured and stuff like that for Gettysburg. So I sent you a friend request.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes, and that way, yes, Brett, I'm going to steal her for my show. And so, yes, I would love to have you on Paranormal Realm. And
yeah, I'd love to do that. That would be awesome.
Absolutely. We steal each other's guests, and we fight over it. But we're going to be okay. And anyway, so, oh, wow. That is one of my things, was to do that one, Gettysburg, and in Wilder, which is funny, that's my last name, Wilder, I wanted to do the Bob Mackey's.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of leery on that one, but always wanted to. And, I don't know. We'll see. That's something far away, and that's a long trip for us, but who knows? We did Myrtles here. I don't know if you heard about Myrtles Plantation. We've done Myrtles. Myrtles is interesting. That is something that if you ever come to Louisiana, I would recommend you hit. Do not tell them that you are a paranormal investigator.
One of those, okay.
Well, what it is they want to charge you. It was by the time I figured out the price to rent all the rooms out, have nobody there, I had to get an umbrella insurance. I mean, it was like $6,000.
Oh,
I was
no.
like, it's not working. No. And so, we came up with an idea that, look, nobody wear our shirts, and we're all going to rent these separate places, and this is what we're going to do. And it's amazing. It's not scary, amazing, but it was interesting. And, if you do a tour of it, the guy, I challenged him because that's the way I am. And so, he was, everybody knows the infamous Chloe. So, I was frustrated because, he said that they brought her down to the river, which was 5 miles, and killed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I disagreed with him. I said, no. I said, back in the day of the slaves, if they killed someone, they did it in front of the slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
To
unfortunate,
show.
but that was kind of the thing. Yeah, it was like, this is what happens if you don't, it's horrible that is the truth of it, but you're absolutely right. The chances of them taking her someplace to do it privately slim to none.
None.
Even if they had other ideas for her, it still would have been done right in front of everybody.
Well, exactly, because the thing was she was the trusted slave. And read up on her story. You'll see what I'm talking about. And I thought, no, he was going to make a spectacle of her. And so when I immediately stepped on the property and knew of the story, I was like, that's the tree she was hung in. She was hung in front of everybody, and that's the way I felt.
Yeah.
And so we had amazing stuff. Even just walking around happened between even me. My husband witnessed it. It was so weird. There was no wind, and we were walking by the caretaker's cabin. I didn't have video. All I had was pictures, and so I just kept snapping. And the shutter on the outside of that cabin was slowly just opening. No wind, nothing. And my husband was like, okay, I think we're invited in. I was like,
there you go.
Yeah, I was like, I think we're being looked at. That's the way I take it. We're being watched. And so we just walked off. My whole team was somewhere else, and it was just me and him walking around because for some reason I was being pulled to that caretaker cabin. And so, seriously, if you ever come to go there. Y'all would enjoy it and have a great time. And also, definitely New Orleans has an atmosphere about it. But go to San Luis. Be very careful when you go to San Luis. Go during the day because at night it's not in a very respectful neighborhood.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I get you.
At night it's you would believe. No, seriously, this cemetery is it's in the middle of it's actually a major road that runs in front of it, So you have to find parking kind of in the little square footage that it's in, and there is very risky apartments that are all around it. So it's not a very nice neighborhood where actually Madame Laveau is buried.
Yeah, I would love to see where she was laid to rest. I imagine there's got to be some sort of activity around that.
Yeah, it's crazy, and they had the right now I can't think of her name. They had a doctor. The wife actually was married to the doctor, and what they would do is they'd take the slaves and they would disfigure them. They'd put their legs where the arms were, and vice versa.
My God.
And one of the
That's
slaves,
horrible.
It's horrible. We were standing outside. It's actually an apartment complex type thing, and I was just standing in awe of this place, and just thinking of what this poor slave did. What she did was she set herself on fire in the kitchen, and so the fire, comes. They were hosting a very big party. So they moved the party outside and still jammed and had fun or whatever, what have not. And when they, the fire department came in investigating, they found these slaves upstairs that were disfigured and still alive. And
oh, my God.
This
Those poor
lady
people,
and
I
the
feel
doctor,
so bad for them.
absolutely, and they left. In England, nobody knows what happened to them. They left.
Oh, jeez. See, that's the, the kind of thing that, when I was talking about, if you encounter something that seems dark or aggressive, there might have been events that led up to changing that energy that way. That's a perfect example. When somebody goes through torture or, is murdered in such a horrific way, sometimes that energy that remains is angry, is upset, is still horrified, still reliving that. And that's where you get that kind of, back off. Think of it as like, if somebody hurts you and you were locked up in like, a room or something and you haven't seen anybody and all of a sudden people come invading in, you might want to fight because you don't know if they're going to hurt you again. Too often people say, oh, I'm afraid of ghosts, but the truth is most of the time they're afraid of you too.
No,
they don't know what's going on.
No, and you walk into a lot of cases like that. Around here you do. You even though you're upbeat, hey, I've got this, God is on my side, let me tell you something. My husband is proof. I'm serious. We've walked into places and it was like, holy crap, this isn't right. And I've got EVPs that something has told me in a house, I'm going to slap the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And it was all because I was saying, I'm going to take another picture. That's all I said. And that's what it said, which was a female voice. And the thing was, this girl thought it was going to be cool to go. They went to New Orleans, and she said, we went into this place. It wasn't marked. I said, you didn't have a sign. She said, no. I said, show me what you bought from there. She said, what was given to me. I said, show me what was given to you. It was a voodoo doll. I said, get rid of it. I said, I've never seen a voodoo doll like this, and get rid of it. She said, how do I get rid of it? I said, get rid of it. Throw it away. I said, I don't care what you, don't tear it apart and do not put it on your property. Get rid of it. Throw it in the trash. I don't know. Get it out of your house. And this is what we were dealing with. It was terrible. It was terrible. Well, we didn't run or anything like that. We did the investigation. 2 investigators got sick. We left. We went back to the hotel because we were staying in a hotel. We traveled 3 hours there. And when we reviewed that, I thought, holy crap. I said, you have gargoyles, you have all kind of stuff that's negative. Get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she tried to call me, come back, it's bad. And, you know, I told her basically, you know, I've told you what to do. You've got to help me help you.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be holding on to those things.
Mm-mm. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So
the house that I grew up in, I told you in the beginning there that, living in a haunted house when I was young is, one of the things. But there was a painting, I guess. I don't really remember because I was only like 3 years old at the time. But there was this painting that was hung in my parents' bedroom. And my father, he's a geologist. He was in college at the time. Had like a handheld tape recorder to record his lecture notes, because back in the day, right? Don't want to date myself, but you get what I'm saying. So he would come home and listen to his lecture notes, and I guess at one point, all of his lecture notes were replaced by like a moaning and a growling sound, and my dad thought my mom had done it. He said, why would you do this to me? Why would you play a prank like this? And I lost all of my notes. And well, here they had heard noises coming from this picture before. I guess my mom took the picture out back and burned it. And after that point, they did not have these weird kind of guttural sounds anymore. But it was after that, then that's when the lights started to follow me around, and they did not seem to be aggressive, but this sound was. It was like a growling, snarling, like, horrible. My dad still has the recordings of it. It's scary to listen to it. It's all like, rah, 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 kind of thing.
Right.
And, my mom was like, okay, it's the picture, that's it. She took it out back, set it on fire, and then after that, she said the lights that would be around me when I was a baby and when I was growing up, she said they were pink and white and gold and not dark, never had any bad sounds. But there's hundreds of pictures of me as a child, and there's always these lights in all of the pictures.
Yes.
It's just the funniest thing.
That's crazy.
And,
all right, Kathryn, I hate to cut you short, but we have about 2 minutes left of the show. And I know, bless her heart, Kylie is just so patiently sitting online listening. So I want you to go ahead.
Fine.
Yes, please plug in all your information, websites, your books, everything. Anybody that wants to contact you for more information or anything of that nature, go ahead and do it now, and that way Kylie can she can close the show out.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. Anybody can find all of my books on Amazon Kindle. Just search for Kathryn Kaye. The last name is Kaye. Or you can go to my website, www.authorkathrynkay.com, and you can connect with me on Facebook at KathrynK56 or on Twitter at KathrynK35.
Awesome. Awesome. So, anyway, I'm so glad you came on the show, and I'm so glad to meet you. So this was great.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a great time talking to you. So.
I did too.
I look forward to talking to you again in the future, and I don't want to cut into the next person's time, but I'll look forward to talking to you.
Absolutely. You take care, sweetheart. And
you too. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, well, Brett. Actually, Brett. Thank you, Brett.
Yes, thank you, Brett. I appreciate it.
All right, honey. You take care, and you have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Hello, Jill. Are you still there? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
still here.
Is that the end of the show? Oh, you're still there?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for sticking with me because we were just at a loss, but I'm so glad you were here. So however you want to end the show, sweetheart, you go right ahead.
No worries. I'll put all the links up for our guests and for yourself and Edwin as well on our Your Paranormal Facebook group page.
All right. That
So
sounds
I think
great.
that's it.
All righty.
Okay.
Thank you, Kylie. I appreciate it, sweetie.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Edwin. Okay,
All
see you
right, bye.
later.
All righty.